Hi guys, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the channel that is not trying to sell you mugs, shirts. Welcome to the channel that is not trying to flip watches. Welcome to the channel that is not sponsored by anything corporate, by any gray market dealers. Welcome to the channel that is called Untimely Meditations. Welcome, friends. I was almost forgetting. Welcome to the channel that doesn't shill for any overpriced shitter watches. Guys, today we are going to talk about the art of watch collecting. And the specific topic is how many watches do we really need? At the end of the day, everyone, even if money is no object, I think would benefit from a conversation like this, from thinking about this issue, because you can approach it from two perspectives, right? Of course, even if money is not necessarily an object in other aspects of our life, at the end of the day, there are all sorts of obstacles thrown in our way, all sorts of impediments. It might be our significant other who is not really letting us spend money on our hobby. It might be, again, that we are working with limited resources. It might be that we are still paying off our mortgage. It might be that we are making other sorts of investments. So simply, it might be because we are working with limited resources that we want to have 2, 3, 5, or no more than 6 watches. That is one way to look at it, right? And we are talking about it in terms of limitations, in terms of restraints, in terms of constraints. But of course, there's so many other ways of looking at your philosophy behind building your collection. And I think one helpful way is to think of it as a realm of self-expression, right? This is your avenue to express yourself, to even make yourself in a certain way, right? To have your watches reflect your lifestyle, reflect your life, somehow reflect and resonate with the kind of person you are. And when you look at collecting watches as a realm of creative expression and creative self-expression at that, then you can think of those previous limitations as a kind of art form, right? In poetry, for example, you have prosody, you have established rhyme schemes. In Twitter, you have 280 characters, right? So you have to express yourself in ways that are appropriate to the form that you're dealing with. You have to express yourself in connection, in relation to the platform that you are inhabiting. So when you look at collecting watches in the same way, you don't have to see having only 2 watches or only 3 watches or only 5 watches, 6, whatever you consider to be your number, as a particular limitation. I have posted the link already. So if you want to make this a conversation, I would very much appreciate an interlocutor. You know, I always prefer having a panel, although I have the innate talent to talk for hours on end, not least because I love the sound of my own voice. And thanks to my new microphone, it's even better, if you can believe it. Mr. Skydweller pulled up his chair and he's listening again. One of my most loyal subscribers. Welcome back, Mr. Skydweller. Beautiful watch also. I really do like that watch in two tone. It is a little too big for me. It is a little disproportionate on my wrist, but otherwise, that would have been a beautiful watch for me as well. Apollo Prospector, hey man, how are you? What happened to the AC3 stream? I don't know. Ask Apollo. You should ask people who run that stream. I'm not responsible for it. I'm just responsible for my own channel. So we began with talking about the size of a watch collection. I have, from whatever perspective you look at it, 9 watches in my collection, right? I have a small sub collection of Seiko divers that I really cherish, that I didn't really thoughtfully collect, to be honest, even though there were certain aesthetic choices that I made when buying them. But at the end of the day, I wanted to have a few watches that I can wear without the slightest care in any part of the town at any time of the day. Um, Watches that I can wear again with abandon when I'm on poolside, when I'm uh, by the ocean, whatever. So that's how I ended up with my two Seiko SKXs and my King Turtle. Um, but with the 6 luxury watches that I have I have been much more thoughtful, and I have built them like a house, brick by brick, one by one, and at times researching and studying particular models for years on end, reading up on them, uh, looking up listings online, seeking out dealers wherever I happen to reside in the world at the time, going out there, going out of town sometimes to examine and handle the best examples I could find, going to the auctions, even if I would not be a bidder necessarily, going to the auction previews where I could actually see some of the most thoughtfully curated collections of watches together, so I could learn more, so I could understand what to look for. Oh, Apollo Prospector. Now I'm realizing it's I haven't actually watched it. Someone sent a snippet of it. Someone alerted me to a certain portion of it, and I watched that. But it's not an episode that I watched from beginning to end, and I don't know whatever happened to it now. And since I'm not part of the show now, again, God knows, people in the chat will probably direct you in the proper way. Skydweller, you're more than welcome. Moritz says, after what he said to Marcelo today, I guess it will be private soon. It was an anti Semitic comment. Of course it was. Of course it was. But thank you for recognizing that, right? Because some people, when someone spits in their face, just wipe it off and say, oh, it's raining a little bit today. It's all right. It's quite all right. Such is life. So when it came to my collection, I went after best examples of watches that I could find. I was bitten by the bug because um, I had my Submariner passed on to me. It was given to me after graduating from high school, And the simplicity, the beauty of that watch uh, bound me in an emotional and very, admittedly irrational way to one particular brand, right? And that was Rolex, obviously. So when I started college, the first one of the first things I did was to run to the library, sign up for a work study job, and uh, work as many hours as I could in a week. I wanted to be in the library anyways, stacking books. And at the end of the year, and those were the times, I could actually get myself another Rolex. And I wanted to go in a slightly different direction. I wanted something that had a little more of a visual attraction, a little more glimmer. I wanted something that had some sort of function or complication, and I knew I wanted a Rolex. So I made my way to go to the jewelry district and every other vintage watch dealer I could find in the five boroughs, and started, going through things. And I was really smitten when I first saw, pardon me, and this is the earlier days of the internet, right? I wasn't really part of any forums or anything at that time, even though I would sometimes look for pictures, and I mean, Rolex pictures. I don't mean the other kind. And I have more or less decided after a few months of looking that I wanted to go for a root beer, right? I know it was somehow linked to Clint Eastwood because he wore it in a couple of movies and in his personal life. Um, I was attracted because it was a two-tone watch, so it had a little more of a jewelry aspect, especially on a two-tone jubilee bracelet, and it had a different dial color, right, to my Submariner, which had that all black, purist, simple aesthetic. And it had a date. And, being a GMT master, of course, it also had the GMT hand. So combined with the bezel, it actually had the function of showing the time in another time zone, which to me was really a romantic idea because, quite honest, at that time of my life, um, I wasn't really traveling all that much, right? So for me, the charm of that watch was very much the fact that I could have on my wrist a watch which could tell me the time in another part of the world where I had family, where I had friends, uh, and to me, that was the emotional and you know quote unquote irrational appeal of that watch, right? That I was my first watch, I was wearing my father's watch, right? My first serious watch, I should say, 5513. My second watch, 16753, the root beer GMT, the Clint Eastwood mocha GMT, two tone, whatever you want to call it. Uh, that had the appeal to me that, in addition to being a more jewelry like piece, it also connected me to some other part of the world where people, my loved ones, lived, and I could know what time of the day they were experiencing, just by a quick glance at my wrist. And once again, then we're talking about a time before smartphones, so that was still quite an interesting and useful complication. Let's read up a little more. Apollo Prospector says, Fike, that you were a great panelist on the show. Thank you. I appreciate your kind words, man. As always, I'm always doing my best. So wherever I am, that's not gonna change. Hey, Big Meech, welcome back to the show. There's a lot of room here for the sheep, so feel free to jump on. Of course, Big Meech and I had a great conversation about his collection earlier, uh, and very early, in fact, in this channel's lifetime. So I encourage you to watch that, and I will pull up that link momentarily. So let's see. Because that was a really nice conversation that we had, and I hope to do more of these in due time. Hello, guys. Amateur hour, guys. Sorry about that. So that's the Big Meech collection review. Yes. So I basically had those two watches for most of my time in New York City, and I was quite happy with that collection. But of course, since I wasn't just looking at them as watches and as timekeepers, I was just interested in finding yet another watch that opened another perspective on me. And again, I had already cultivated this stupid brand loyalty that went beyond any reason and beyond any reasonable calculation. Right. But I wanted something yet again different, but somehow also similar. Yeah. Another Rolex wristwatch that somehow was different enough from what I already had, which was, after all, a no date Submariner and a two-tone GMT Master. And this is right around the time, late 2014, 2015. And this is the first time I started seriously looking on YouTube for watch content. And I find this guy from Brisbane, Australia, who seems to be a little unhinged, who seems to be a little out of control, but who, by and large, has a very knowledgeable and well-informed perspective on watches, at least for Rolex and Patek Philippe, I have found. And at the time, of course, one of the watches that Paul Pluta Archiluxury was raving about was the Polar Explorer 2, of which he had the 5-digit version. And of course, I was very much taken by his enthusiasm for the watch. But this time I was also interested in how he rationalized his choice. And this was a time again when, having already two watches, the third one needed some rationalization, right, from my perspective, because otherwise it would have been too much. It would have been an excess. It would have been, it was not enough this time that it had an extra function and that it was somehow just a little bit different from what I already had. Baron von Müller, good afternoon, sir. One piece is enough. That is well earned and means something to wear every day for the rest of your life. That's actually, I envy that perspective, Baron. Most certainly, I envy that perspective. That was, in fact, the perspective of, for the most part, our fathers and mothers and grandfathers and grandmothers. At most, they had maybe two pieces, one for everyday wear and one for special occasions, and that was pretty much it, right? And the advantage there, and Baron is already giving you perspective on that particular point, is that you get to wear it all day, every day, and whatever memories you make with it and whatever memories it carries for you are lodged in that watch forever, right? So it's you don't really, sometimes you think back to some of your most important memories, and sometimes we confused their importance and significance with the level of detail and clarity with which we remember those memories. But of course, we sometimes trick ourselves. So what was that woman wearing on that particular night? What was exactly on my wrist when I checked the time, or when she complimented me on my watch? When you have that daily driver, which you wear for most, if not all occasions, you have no such confusion. You know that you were wearing your Seiko diver. You know you were wearing your Submariner. You know you were wearing your day date. You just know, because that is your one and only. That is your one bone. That is your only watch. And there's a very um, there's a charm in that, and I perhaps that is actually something that we can still go back to, and not only yearn for, right? Maybe it is enough to have one watch. It involves a lot of self-restraint. It involves much more thought, right, and much more creativity in a way, than three, five, six, 10 watches. But it takes a lot of self-restraint and a lot of creativity, especially if you're not the kind of guy who necessarily has a uniform, and it's fine as well. Not I don't have a problem with it, but certain guys always wear uh, a polo shirt and shorts, or they always wear a polo shirt and khakis, or they always wear um, a denim shirt and jeans, or some version of that, over and over again. And maybe they can also wear one watch because it just goes with how they put themselves together every day. For me, I think I'm just too picky. Like I like dressing for the occasion. I like putting together outfits, and I like having different watches for that. So I'm um, more like Paul Silisi. Sparkle says, I bought the Polar with Archie's recommendation, 2004 daughter's birth year, more or less, because as I was saying, that decision for me required some rationalization. And my rationalization was, and I was convinced that by Archie, that pardon me, I would get this watch. It was a good deal. It was, quote unquote, the dog of the Rolex professional range. It was the most undervalued Rolex sports watch, and that I would be in good stead over the next few years if I ever had to get rid of that watch. And here we are in year 2022. I haven't gotten rid of the watch, and I haven't even thought of getting rid of the watch. But I know now that on pure monetary terms, that it has doubled its value, double what I paid for. And yes, I'm more like Paul Silesius than Baron von Müller. He says, as much as I would love to be a one or two watches guy, one watch or two watches guy, I can't live in such a predicament. Paul, honestly, I see some of your watches on your Instagram, and if I had any one of them, I don't think I would want to uh, give them up, right? And in fact, I think your most recent acquisition is that Ralph Lauren dress piece, right? The rectangular with guilloche decoration all over, all over the bezel and the face of the watch and the dial of the watch. I want to bring it up with your permission, of course, Paul. Um, but yeah, it's when you start building up the collection and when you spend so much time, forget about the money, so much time in thinking about what you will get next, where you will get it, how it will fit in your collection, it becomes so much more difficult to give it up. So that's one very easy piece of advice to dispense, right? Try not to make any impulse purchases. And when you actually take the time to make those decisions, when you add a new watch to your collection, you end up with watches that you don't want to give up so easily. Trading Loss says maybe 1 to 3 watches, sport, dress, daily. Hey man, nice to see you, Trading Loss. Steel, two-tone, precious metal. Yes, steel, sports, maybe precious metal, dress, and two-tone daily. I don't know if I divvied that up the right way you wanted, Trading Loss, but feel free to correct me. Apollo Prospector, a man's sense of fashion is pretty much locked in by age 35, 40. Yes, again, I may have aged like an avocado, but I'm 37 years old, so I pretty much know what I like and what I don't like. Trading Loss agrees. Which watch is this one? Which one? Um, Oh, the one that I was just talking about. The one that I was just talking about is 16570, the Polar Explorer 2 from year 2000. And again, that was Archie's recommendation too, right? I was, of course, very much influenced by the idea that, hey, it's the most undervalued, most underrated Rolex sports watch, and this is the right time to get it. But also because I was just figuring out that the closer you get to year 2000, you have this sweet spot basically in the Rolex professional range. You have this wonderful compromise where you have some elements from vintage, right? Sometimes the tritium carries over, and of course it gets replaced by Luminova the closer you get to year 2000. You still have a Holst case up to year 2000, which not long after disappears. But in this case, at year 2000, with my Polar Explorer 2, I got a watch that had the Luminova. So my only Rolex watch to this day that has functional lume. Well, my only watch, in fact, that has functional lume in that 6-piece collection. And but it has the Holst case. Yet it also has, because it's from year 2000, um, solid end links bracelet with a flip lock. So it's just the best of all worlds for me, and it makes for a great daily wear. And it was, of course, once again different enough from whatever else I had. Right? It was a GMT watch, but it had the steel, sandblasted sunburst bezel rather than the rotating bezel, and it had a white dial rather than black or brown. So aesthetically, it fit right between actually my 5513 and 16753. Paul Slesius says, for me personally, the hardest is selling the watch. I had similar Ralph Lauren before and had to buy it again. Yeah, that happens too, right? It's hard to give them up. And when you give up a watch like that you actually loved, you kind of have to get it back afterwards. Apollo Prospector says, I love two-tone. Do you have any modern pieces? And if not, why not? Um, so this is a good question, actually, that I would like to think about. I love two-tone for two reasons, right? I think, again, this is my personal opinion. I don't know if the science of optics is on my side. I don't know if I can present you with physical evidence, but I've always had the impression that the two-tone pieces, in that contrast between stainless steel and gold center links and accents, catch the eye in a different way, both under sunlight and under even artificial light. I might be wrong, but I really think that is the case. So I like two-tone for that reason. But the other aspect is that you have, for all intents and purposes, the robustness and reliability of a stainless steel watch for everyday wear, and um, also still some of that jewelry-like aspect of a precious metal watch reflected at least in some of the accents of that watch. I'll get back to your question in a second, Apollo Prospector. Trading Law says two-tone daily, maybe. Yeah, it depends. But the daily is a tough one because you get pushed into four watches. So then maybe it becomes two steel. Then the avalanche happens 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, that's exactly it. Mr. Patek says, good evening. New to the channel. Great show. Hey guys, if you have been enjoying the show so far, if you have been learning from it, please hit the like button, uh, spread the word, share the link on other platforms, help me get that much closer to 1,000 subs. If you haven't subscribed, that's the most invaluable help you can give me. I care about every single subscriber that I get. Um, it's really, really precious to me. So, Mr. Patek, thanks for coming to the channel. Lovely to see you here. Please do subscribe if you haven't already. It's very important for me. So, Apollo's question: do you have any modern pieces? And if not, why not? So, I was socialized into the Rolex world by a watch from the '60s, and it has the original rivet bracelet, um, which I really love. But it has a certain feel for everyday wear that that is not reflected by the more the more modern pieces, which were differently, right? Others would say simply better, right? There are many who have started their journey, their Rolex journey, with the contemporary line. And some of those people think that vintage Rolex feels like a toy watch, right? It's too flimsy. The bracelets are too jingly jangly and not solid and robust enough. And the cases are too slim and the watches don't have enough presence. For me, it's the opposite, right? I do appreciate that Rolex isn't doing exactly the same thing in year 2022 that it was doing in 1968. That being said, I feel like when I look at the contemporary lineup, I'm taken more by Tudor's lineup than Rolex's lineup, at least from a visual standpoint, right? To me, those watches seem a little too much, right? The newer the newer 41 millimeter case design, as it might be just slightly larger, is a little more appealing to me visually. What we had in the ceramic era, right, when the ceramic bezel inserts were introduced and then over, progressively perfected, when the bracelets became uh, better built and more robust. um, this also came with the so-called maxi dials, which was basically a way of reflecting a certain period of time in Rolex's history in contemporary watches, and the so-called super cases. And I thought that just they just didn't have the right proportions for me. Right now, I think Rolex has the right proportions. Now I think SD43, I think, is an amazing watch. I think the Sub 41 is an amazing watch. I think the modern Daytona is an amazing watch, even for someone like me who's really not that much into chronographs. Nevertheless, when I look at those watches, not that they are usually accessible and available to first time buyers, as you know, you have to have perhaps a special kind of connection. You have to have the reference or referral. But there's always something off to me um, with any of those watches. Like I'm really not a fan of the Pepsi, for example. I like the so-called Batman a little more, or Batgirl. Um, even the black GMT, I was, pardon me, I was fine with that. Dirk Diggler, hey man, welcome. Um, so right now, I do love the SD43. I think if it comes through before the end of the year, I might just end up buying it. But for me, it just didn't feel right, and I think that has a lot to do um, with my aesthetic investment in vintage watches, because at least on first sight, a lot of Tudor watches appeal to me more instantly and more quickly than a lot of Rolex watches at this time and day. Nevertheless, there's always one thing that I start nitpicking about, that I start complaining about whenever it comes to actually getting one of these contemporary pieces. So I hope this explains it. I think it was just a very digressive and long-winded answer. So I'm not sure if I made myself clear, Paula. Trading Law says, so maybe if you have 16710, which I do, who knows, you get a daily beater Seiko SPB mid-range along with a TT Bluesy or GMT, then you have a president or something, then it breaks the rule. Or 1 to 3 watches. I think if you have, hey, if you want to work with that, I would say get a GMT Master 2 like that, 16710 or 16760. Yes, the so-called fat lady, the first generation of GMT Master, who is just a little bit thicker, because the first time they rehold that movement to get the um, jumping GMT hand, jumping our hand for the GMT function, they just couldn't slim it down enough. You can get that. You can have a daily beater in a Seiko, in a mid-range Seiko, in a prospects Seiko prospects, and then get a gold sub. That can be your dress piece. Not dress, special occasion piece, right? Again, we live in a time where people don't really care much about these codes, and if they do, they prefer breaking them rather than keeping them. So get something in precious metal, and why not go for a sub for the precious metal rather than getting a date, or get a gold Daytona on an Oyster Flex. I think that could be an interesting watch. Just just spitballing, as they say. thinking out loud. And then you fancy adding a reverso and on and on and on. Yeah, sometimes there's just no end. That's why I want someone to balance me on the panel. And I'm going to drop the link again, but hey, it's pinned there. So if you like, just jump on. Dirk, welcome back. Apollo Prospector says, so you like the feel over aesthetic concerns. I prefer the aesthetic of larger dimensions in modern pieces. Much respect. I think for me, they're too big. And that has a lot to do with the fact that my wrists are not too big either. So in a way, the vintage ones fits better to me. And the subordinate would want it because of that history, or but the normal person wouldn't care about the story. The trade for a modern to a new vintage is usually a no-go. Would you take it if they will do an even trade for the historic Leyden watch for a modern one? No. No. I mean, putting aside my sub, which has another kind of value either, I would not trade my root beer for a modern two-tone Rolex GMT. I would not trade my 16710 Coke for a Batman or a Pepsi. I would certainly not trade my Datejust 36 16014, steel, silver linen dial with the white gold fluted bezel. I would not trade it with a modern Datejust. Even though some of them look great, I actually like Cam's Datejust with the blue dial, oyster bracelets, and the smooth bezel. I think that's a very cool watch, but I don't think I would want to trade mine with that. And there we are. I would certainly not trade my Polar Explorer 2 with any of the current ones. So there we go. There we go. Trading loss, a watch with a story behind it will find its place in your collection, I think. Yeah, I mean, look, any watch that has a personal story in it, independent of its financial worth or horological status, is better than Grand Complication by Patek Philippe. I mean, to me, it's a non-issue, right? Of course, a watch that has a sentimental value for you and that you like wearing day in, day out will be much more valuable to you than a perpetual calendar chronograph. And Apollo says exactly, the story is worthless in terms of third-party evaluation, but priceless to the person concerned. I'm glad we are operating in the same frequency. And of course, that story only becomes valuable if you're some sort of celebrity, right? If that story comes with a sprinkle of stardust, it's just cool, right? Of course, the Paul Newman Daytona means something because of that magazine cover, because of the desire for that watch among collectors for decades and decades on end, because of the way that the more modern and current versions themselves were extremely desirable, because of the fact that Paul Newman was a Hollywood star. But the story of that particular watch, its provenance, fits so perfectly to the way that we idolized that particular man, right? Because Paul Newman to us is also known through his generosity, right? Through the foundation he built in Newman's Own, where all the profits go into charity, right? This guy basically runs summer camps, or used to when he was alive, and those summer camps are still alive and well, thankfully, in perpetuity, thanks to the sale of that watch. But here's the catch, right? He was someone defined by his generosity, and it turns out that he actually took this watch off his wrist because his daughter's boyfriend didn't have a watch of his own on his wrist, and just casually gave it to him and said, "Hey, if you wind it, it keeps pretty good time." Right? So somehow stars have aligned and made that watch what it is, gave that watch the kind of iconic status that it now has in our imagination. And it had everything to do with the story. Hey, but our stories, as Apollo Prospector said, would be quote unquote worthless in a third party evaluation. It means everything to us. Mike David says, I started in the contemporary and have recently got a neo vintage GMT. I love it. I thought the bracelet might bother me. Once it's on, it just doesn't. That's great. That's very good to hear, Mike David, because I was thinking, when I talked about that compromise in neo vintage right around the year of 2000, plus and minus 3-4 years, you just have the best spot for vintage heads to, pardon me, to move onto contemporary watches. And you also have the best kind of transition for lovers of contemporary Rolex to try something slightly different, something that still has similar aesthetics to something that's still a recognizably iconic watch for them, but with a slightly different feel. And I'm glad you actually are enjoying that transition. More power to you, and wear that new vintage GMT in good health. Trading loss confirms Apollo Prospector. And Dirk Diggler says, damn, busting out the 70s style open shirt to show chest there again. Yeah, man, it's growing back after the most recent shearing. So I thought, hey, share it with the world. And as much as we love straight men on this channel, it wouldn't hurt to increase the percentage of female viewers as well. Dirk Diggler says, without Paul Newman, not many would want the Monaco. Maybe you mean Steve McQueen? I don't mean to correct, but when it comes to the Monaco, I think the story is mostly with McQueen, the king of cool. Apollo Prospector plus the value he added to the brand as a result. Yes. Yes. I mean, look, Rolex always aggressively denies product placement, and there's so many authentic stories where a Rolex just happened to be on someone's wrist. But sometimes they also make the extra effort. They also made the extra effort to place that watch there, especially in Hollywood. I mean, a friend of mine just reminded me of Charles Bronson and his 5513 Submariner in the movie The Mechanic. And there's that scene of him where he is timing the explosion of that yacht, and it just like the cut is so awkward, when he's in his wetsuit, and the next scene you see him like looking at his wrist, and the next scene the yacht explodes. It just seems like they were trying a little too hard to show that he was wearing a Rolex Submariner. Trading Loss says, I like the Newman's Own Caesar dressing for my salad. Salad dressings, another favorite topic of this channel. But yeah, Newman's Own, joking aside, has many, many quality products, actually. I used to love their fig cookies. I used to love their lemonades. I haven't really bought any of their products recently, but it's good stuff. Dirk Diggler says, then the boyfriend broke up with her. But hey, it's actually, uh, they were still on amicable terms. And I don't know if he got a cut from that price that was realized in the auction, but most of it went to her charity, actually. So um, all is well when it ends well. So all is well that ends well. BC, hey man, welcome back, Magnum PI. Speaking of iconic watches, Magnum PI and his Pepsi GMT Master. Trading loss, pre ceramic GMT, solid end links, Halls case, probably the best configuration, then solid end links, in my opinion. Yeah, the versatility is too good. Dirk says, yes, McQueen for the Hoya Monaco as an iconic chronograph. DP says, always been a one watch per brand collector. That's a good take as well. Um, I have a fanboy mentality, right? So for me, I have 5 Rolexes, I have my Reverso, and I probably, unless I go with something like Alain Gonzone, I want to kind of expand my Reverso collection too. So I have that sort of compartmentalized mentality. I have my Seikos for everyday beaters, so on and so forth. But that's a good philosophy. Don't care about hype investment at all. I buy what I like. Each brand has its own interesting history that most buyers are unaware of these days. I think that's a very, very good way to look at it. Um, that's the other thing, right? The each brand, well, each watch can mean something to us, right? Can have an individual or personal story, an intimate story that gives its emotional value for us. We were talking about that just earlier with our own connection to our watches, and then about how Paul Newman's Daytona took on an extra level of significance beyond that celebrity stardust because it comes with a story of generosity, right? But there's also the stories and histories that are connected to particular watchmakers. And sometimes it just makes those watches a lot more irresistible, right? For example, I've always somehow stayed away from Blancpain 50 fathoms, but ultimately, and part of it was because on paper it's 45 millimeters, right? Knowing that classic Submariners are really like 39 and maybe 40 later on, I just thought it would be too big, but it wears so much better than that number might suggest on paper. And at the end of the day, that's how it was designed, right? That it was supposed to be oversized. It was supposed to be uh, legible and visible in deep waters because it was made by Jean-Jacques Fichter as a diver's watch. So when I put it on and when I connected with that story of design, with that history of the invention of the first modern dive watch, that watch suddenly took on a different meaning for me. I'm not planning to go out and buy it tomorrow, but nowadays I am like, hey, a Blancpain 50 fathoms would be pretty cool. Trading Loss says James Cameron, the perfect example. Yeah, the deep sea. Apollo Prospector, imagine how many unspoken stories are floating out there with AC3s, various men on the fucking moon over the years. Yeah, I mean that was the time, you know. That right around that time, he was basically eating his microphone, screaming Polar Explorer 2 and Man on the Moon. Those were the two watches that he was most obsessed with, even though he had watches for which he paid more, even though he had watches in his collection that were incomparably better, horologically speaking, right? A Patek annual calendar is obviously a better watch than a Polar Explorer 2. Well, I don't know if it is because I'm brainwashed or anything, but for me, a Polar Explorer 2 is cooler. It really is. It just I feel I feel like $1,000,000. So that's just great. Justin Forge, hey man, it's lovely to see you. Please jump on the panel if you would like. The link is pinned there, but I'm gonna send it out again, and that goes for each and every one of you. Yasha V says on paper, the 50 fathoms is 45 millimeter. In life, it's huge and shiny. Yes, it is. It is all high polish, in stainless steel in the original version. Um, it has that big, very prominent sapphire bezel. It is a watch that's larger than life, but hey, it comes with a pretty cool story that is also larger than life. So somehow it fits. I think it's a very cool watch. The watch guy says, enough watch talk. Where's the drama? The drama. There's drama might follow me to this channel, but I don't generate it, guys. So if you came for drama, at least jump on the panel and manufacture it yourself. I can't give it to you because I just don't have that kind of energy. Trading Loss says Hugh Blow and Zenith. Pick one. No brainer, man. Zenith, of course. Zenith El Primero is one of the first high beat automatic chronograph movements in the history of horology. It powered the Daytona from 1988 to 2000. There's so many great vintage watches from the 70s and 80s, by Movado Zenith, whatever you want to call it, that have that movement. There are a lot of contemporary Zenith El Primero chronographs that are way cool and in a way more accessible, if not necessarily more affordable, than a Daytona at retail price. When we are talking about retail prices, for me, it's a no-brainer. It's Zenith. Dirk says some guy on AC thought you were Dirk Diggler. I wish I were. I wish I were that cool. You have the king in your avatar, man. I can't compete with that. I was like, what? Yeah, I think Dirk. You know why? Because they have made up. Some have made up their mind about me, and it's such a negative, such a toxic, such a hateful perception that they just can't. They just can't make peace with the fact that there might be people out there who like me, who prefer me over certain characters on that show. That blows their mind, right? So if you were out there defending me in some way, probably they thought, well, this is impossible. It must be a puppet account by him. GB Vol, hey man, how are you doing? Nice to see you back. The watch guy says, come for the drama, stay for the watch talk. Okay, we try our best. 4-9's fine. Good evening. Good evening to you as well. Nice to see you, man. Trading Law says, amen. El primero. it's an iconic movement, and they still make some great watches. So why not? E- Sorry, guys. I was a little distracted because I was checking my Instagram, guilty as charged, and the eBay watches slid into my DMs. I was looking for something a little more interesting and exciting than that, but unfortunately not. So let's see. Zenith El Primero. Yeah, let's just take a quick, quick, quick look at Zenith. You know, I'm a huge fan of the Movado era um, Astron, that forgotten stainless steel integrated bracelet sports watch of the 70s. But when it comes to the contemporary too, this is just great. And honestly, I just like the visual interest of three sub dials in different colors. And of course, you can take issue with what I said there, because my usual defense for saying, hey, I don't like chronographs and the dial is too busy and whatever. It's hypocritical to say that, I actually like this because there's just too much going on the dial. Well, I feel like at least they're doing something with that business, right? If you're going to make something not legible, at least give me something fun to look at, fun and quirky. Dirk Diggler. Yeah, I'm gonna let me post the link to that Movado Astronic video as well, since we are talking about it. And if you guys look at it, it's an interesting value proposition. It's not necessarily cheap, but compared with all sorts of other um, integrated bracelets watches from that era, from the 70s specifically, it's just too good of a deal to miss. I'm gonna post it here. Hey, Justin,
Hello, hello.
how you been? It's been a while.
Pretty good. Pretty good. How's by you?
Perfect, perfect. Even better now that I've seen you here.
Yeah,
Thanks
I
for
figured
joining the
you could
panel.
use a little company up here.
I do. I I was just going to respond to the watch guy's collection question. So, what is your collection as it stands? So I have 5 Rolexes, 1 JLC, and 3 Seikos. I have the SKX 007, SKX 009. I have the King Turtle. So that's my little Seiko sub collection. I have my Gégé Lecoultre Reverso Big Date that I'm wearing now, right here, on its original leather band. Then I have my Note 8 Sub 5513. I have my Root Beer GMT 16753. I have Polar Explorer 2 16570. I have my Datejust, which is 16014. And then I have my Coke 16710. How are things by you, Mr. Forge?
Good, good. My collection is not anywhere near as, shall we say, eclectic as that. Uh, but yeah,
I thought I thought it was, in fact. You have a much more diverse collection than mine.
well, I can definitely say I have some that are much cheaper than your cheapest. I would love to say I have one much more expensive than your most priceless watch, but I can't say that. Eh, you remember, I used to be a public servant, so I had the budget that went along with that. And every time I wanted to get a new watch, I had to give one up.
Hmm.
That's the sad part of it, but you know,
But it also speaks to the topic at hand today, right? How many watches are enough, and how do you make
right.
that choice? And that's as legitimate as any reason, right? You have to
Yeah,
have a certain watch, and for that you might have to give up one or two out of your collection.
right. You know, off the top of my head, I think the best answer I could give to that is you have to have gone through the journey. You have to have gone through your personal watch collector's arc to know where you were, to know how you got to where you were. Therefore, you you know what you like and why you want it in order to just winnow down to the say a basic three, something like that, right?
Mm.
If that makes any sense.
That makes a lot of sense, actually, because I have so far only well, I had unexpected surprises with watches that I thought were very thoughtful decisions for me, but that was mostly positive. So for example, my reverso was even better than what I expected. Otherwise, since I had to think and save up for years at a time when I was getting each piece, I knew more or less what I was getting and what I really wanted to get. Um, not to imply that you were working impulsively there at all, but
Mm,
with the reverso, for example, I finally decided I would like it, but I had no idea that I would love it so much and wear it so frequently. I thought it would be something like an occasional piece, a dressier piece, and I would be done with it um, after a while. But the more I wear it, the more I want to wear it. The more I want to wear it on different kinds of bands, with different kinds of outfits. It just works. But again, I wouldn't have known that if I didn't own that watch.
right.
It's not the same as just strapping it on your wrist at a dealer.
Oh, I love that watch, by the way, the JLC. If I were to buy a dress watch, that would be the exact one.
Mm.
But you know, I have come to the point where if I did get it, I would. I don't think I'd really find a venue to wear it. I'm done with my suits and my ties, and
Hmm.
I actually actively avoid situations where I would have to dress up. That's the
Not
beauty of
not
it.
even not even a Canadian tuxedo.
Well, I guess we could make an exception. Oh,
um, but yeah, I understand. I mean, honestly, sometimes we categorize and compartmentalize these watches a little too strictly, and they can transcend that easily. And I would love to make a case, maybe on another occasion, for the reverso, in the sense that it's not only a dressy piece, but I do understand, because again, your collection too, as it stands, is it's the result of a journey, as you described. You have loved certain watches, and you have grown out of love with them. You loved one
yes.
watch better than the other, So you had to give up the watch that you loved less for the watch that that really sung to you, that really spoke to you. And that's why I love your Sea Dweller 43 story.
Mhm. Oh, your memory is crisp. It serves you well. Well done. Excuse me.
No worries.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I've. You'll recall that I do have watches that please me because of their functionality.
Hmm.
At the same time, look good doing it. I love divers. I like fleegers. I did have. Oh man, I had dress watches. I had some old vintage tank. They were new old stock
Mm.
vintage tank watches. One was called Savoy, I believe. I don't know if you're familiar with a name like that, but it
Mm.
was nice. It was nice. It looked very good, but you said it better. I fell out of love with them as opposed to how I would term it. Just got bored with them. And so I just
Mm.
moved them on to someone who I knew would maybe appreciate them more.
Yeah, what do you think about the Pelagos, by the way? The
I
LHD especially.
I like it. If is that the the non-titanium one, the regular, the steel one with the blue face?
No, that's still
Oh,
a
okay,
titanium, but black face, red writing.
okay. I think I know where you're going with this. Maybe. Yeah, I love it. Um, the left-hand drive just doesn't really bother me so much. In fact, I could finally get rid of this little scar where the crown does dig in on the right-hand ones. But you're not possibly thinking of this as a short-term stopgap replacement for your ultimate love, the SD43.
Well, that's a long story. Actually, I'm just responding to Apollo Prospector's question, but in a way, ST43 itself is a stopgap measure because I really want a double red vintage Sea Dweller, but
Okay,
that's not
fair
happening
enough, fair
anytime
enough.
soon.
Yeah,
But
okay.
that's an interesting way to look at it. There's a little bit of static in your mic. Can you hear it, or is it just me? Maybe it's on my end.
uh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, it's a little bit. I think it might be on only me, but guys,
Okay.
if you can hear it, for me also the left hand drive, I don't only look at it as something to be worn on the right hand. I'm not a lefty to begin with, but I kind of look at it in the same way I look at Seiko's solution in terms of the crown placement at 4 o'clock, right? You don't, especially with a Pelagos, which is heftier and chunkier than um, a sub, especially compared to my sub, it's a much bigger watch. There might be some value in having the crown on the reverse side so it doesn't dig into your wrist bone. So I actually like the LHD. If I didn't love the blue of that original Pelagos on the titanium bracelet, I could certainly see myself going with something like this.
I just turned up my volume a bit. Does that make any difference at all?
No, there's still a little bit static. Big Mitch, can you also hear it, or is it just me? The when Justin speaks. Okay, Lone Snake says I can hear it too, so it's not just me.
Oh,
Mike is
okay.
scratchy. 49's fine says. Um,
Okay.
yeah, Apollo. No worries. So don't worry about it, Justin. We can bear with it. I just wanted to make sure if it's just something on my end, or is it
Right.
something that the audience hears as well. Yeah, when it comes to the Pelagos, I think I like the entire line. I even have love for the FXD, even though I really think it's a little gimmicky. Um, I mean, mil spec is mil spec, but I'm not in the military, so I'm not gonna chase after something like that, and it just limits your options ultimately when you have fixed lugs on a commercially produced piece. So it for me it's fine. But even if have love for that, I like the blue original on the full titanium bracelet more than all of the other ones. But LHD and FXD are cool too.
Yeah. Hey,
What about
Meech.
you? What about you, Big Meech?
Oh, sorry. My internet connection was just a little bit spotty here for some reason. If I'm on the Wi-Fi, it tanks. But what were we talking about here briefly?
The Pelagos, Tudor Pelagos. Do you like them?
Not particularly, no, but I don't like much of Tudors because of the financial status symbol it represents on people. Need to wear Rolex. That's what you need to wear. Wear Rolex to flex on the punters. That's what you wear. Don't wear these garbage Tudors. But I
I
mean,
think
guys, jokes aside, I don't think
Yeah.
the left-hand drive. I think the left-hand drive is actually quite unique. Do I like the Pelagos? Not particularly. No, like I'll still stick to that. But I think it's different, and I think it's one of those things that Tudor really kind of just they delivered on. It wasn't another shitty Black Bay. It was something that's in its own right, and you know what? Credit where credit is due. I would never purchase one, but I believe they have a strong fan base for this particular model, and it's highly beloved for those who do have it.
Sorry, guys. I was just warming up some coffee for myself.
Yep.
Justin, being a sea dweller guy, do you have any love for the Pelagos?
I'm gonna say I appreciate it, I respect it, I like it. I wouldn't buy it. Uh, uh, I especially, and if we were just to, yeah, I'll leave it at that. Yeah, it's okay. Not to damn it with faint praise because it's a nice watch.
That's all right. Well, I mean, you basically, with all due respect, again, I love the Pelagos. I love the fact that they made it in titanium, so
Mhm.
it's unique. It's not just Tudor's version of the Sea Dweller, so to speak. Um, but that being said, in a way, you do have the cooler version of it in Sea Dweller 43. So I understand that, that's all the excitement you can muster about it.
Yeah, not to be snobbish in any way because that's a much better price point, and it's I don't want to say almost as good a watch, but relative to price quality, excellent, right? Now, that said, something about titanium that just leaves me cold. It's a
Mm,
beautiful material for the SR-71 Blackbird, but as far as watches, I had a Breitling Avenger, and it
mhm.
was just, it's a big, chunky monkey. But when you put it on, it feels like it's not even there. It's something I could never really get over.
Mm.
So I moved on.
And Apollo Prospector, it does actually, the LHD plays exactly into my, it tugs at my um, vintage heartstrings, so to speak, because of the roulette date wheel and the red writing. It's beautiful. But when it comes to the Pelagos, I think I still prefer the blue dial. But hey, peeping time. Hey, welcome back, man. I wear my Pelagos, it says, with a Hirsch Extreme. And Dirk Diggler with the personal question: did you have to do a 1 year service in the Israeli army? Um, and peeping
Hey, that's
time says,
mandatory.
Pelagos
Mandatory. You don't have a
is a
choice.
little sterile.
I thought it was 2 years.
No comment.
I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I think it's
I don't
different
know
for men.
anything
It's like
about it.
3 years for men, 1 year for women, I believe.
I don't know anything
Okay.
about it. Um, Pe- Hirsch Extreme. Hirsch is a strap maker, right? If I'm not mistaken.
By the way, the only reason I know that, or I thought I knew that, is I spent about half a year in Israel. So
Right. I remember the story. You you actually did some volunteer work in a kibbutz, no?
yes, yes, I did.
Mm.
And there is nothing finer than walking early morning in an orange orchard and smelling that smell of beautiful citrus and
Mm.
hearing the two phantoms fly overhead. Yes, to break the beautiful silence.
Nothing like the smell of what to say
Napalm.
in the morning. Um, hey, listen, I like that as on its own, and I like it as a euphemism for something else too. Because the way you started talking about it, I thought you were gonna talk about the Israeli chicks you picked up, and that
Mm.
that's a very nourishing experience as well for many.
Yes.
Um, and Apollo Prospector says, "I love the smell of napalm in the morning." Yes.
Yes.
Um, hey, now that I broke off with the Greenwich Mean Time, I'm planning to shave my head and pop the bezel off my GMT Masters and introduce my Apocalypse Now look. No more on the waterfront. Young Brando is transitioning out. I'm gonna put on some weight over time. It's gonna be great. Um, but yeah, this is the Hirsch Extreme. It's a rubber band. I kind of like it. It has this futuristic slash science fiction feel. I like it.
Hmm.
Very cool. I should
Yes.
get one for one of my Seikos for sure.
And those little waffly pattern just towards the where it attaches to the case are very Seiko-ish.
Mm,
But
yes,
that's
of
about
course.
the only similarity here.
Yeah, and it comes with 20, 22, 24, so it can fit a number of different watches, and Four Nines Finest is laughing. Yes, I mean, look, who doesn't like citrus and some fighter planes flying over your head, right? It's a beautiful thing to wake up to. Thomas
Hmm.
Broadbent says, "Astounding Astronic." He has a Movada Astronic in his collection, and I think it's a very very fantastic and unique watch. Four Nines Fine says, "Best dress watch at 10K or under, other than a Datejust or a Reverso." Let's go.
Mm, under 10K.
Yes.
And you can't choose an old man reverse. It's got to be Cartier. Cartier, one of the leading brands. You don't want an old man reversal. You want a Cartier. That's what you want. You want to be drowning in pussy, my guy. You buy a Cartier. Either a
Uh,
tank or a Santos. One of the two. You can't go wrong with either of them.
Hmm. So Reverso is an old man watch, but Tank isn't.
No. Tank is modern, man. It's for the hipsters.
Tank is
I mean,
time.
If Theo and if Christian from Theo and Harris can rock it, then it's 100% hipster watch.
That's cool. That's a good. Actually, those are two great. I mean, I think Santos is one of those watches that straddles a lot of the codes of dress watch and sports watch quite well, and somehow fuses it into its own style. So that's a great suggestion. And why not Tank either? I have the only reason I objected to that is if you can write off the reverse as an old man's watch, Tank is even worse in a way. But hey, I think that's a great suggestion as well.
Well, most reversal guys hate the tank because they see it as a poor man's reversal. Myself included, actually.
Pigeonholing, poor man and old man. Let's arrest this reversal thing in its tracks. Reversal is a nice watch, and it's good for old and young, said the old man.
It's okay, Justin. It's we
Yeah.
this is how we get along. Joe and I have this going on. I shit on Cartier. He shits on Gégé Lecoultre.
Yes.
And
Hey,
he's actually more entitled because he owns a reverso. I don't own a Cartier. So coming from me, it just sounds like hate. So he's in a better place.
Lord's spewing hate propaganda against Cartier.
No.
By the way, guys,
two great.
Do you?
Sorry.
Do
Go
you
ahead.
remember? Do you remember one late night? We this trio right here. We were having discussions about boxing and stuff.
Yes.
Same three guys here.
Although Joe also has no respect for boxing at all, so I don't know how we managed to have that
puffy gloves, guys. Puffy gloves.
That discussion, Justin. But yes, I do remember.
Well,
So what about
you can
your
go bare
suggestion?
knuckling if you want. You can go right back to just the early or the late '80s and say, "Hey, who needs gloves? We'll just get in the square circle and duke it out."
Hey, the travelers still do it in the UK, so why not? What would be your suggestion, Justin?
Well, that puts us into a kind of a weird place. I don't suppose you could squeeze any authorized dealer into giving you a Lange und Söhne for under 10 grand.
No,
Is
not
there any
even
model? No.
not even the Saxonia, which would be the two-hander would be their cheapest.
Yeah.
Still a great piece, a dress piece, but in the current market, no, nowhere near.
Let's aim a lot lower then. How about Glashütte Original? Perhaps. What model? I don't know. Just a Panorama, something like that. Panorama Date, I think. Something like that, perhaps. I don't want it to, I don't suppose a Cartier Santos would fit into the dress watch.
Oh, 100%. It is.
Well, then,
can,
I do love that.
Yeah, Joe.
The
I
bigger
think
one.
your suggestion was good. Yeah,
Because I'd be
I
all
have.
over that.
My suggestion. I will try to pull it up as well, and it comes under 10K as well. This was the 25th anniversary of the Master Control that Gégé Lecoultre did. See, I wasn't tricked by your trick question for an Einstein. Fine. I still came back at you with one of my favorite brands, Gégé Lecoultre. Master Control, sector dial. You can get it for around 7,500. Beautiful dress watch.
From the 1800s.
Has all the right vintage aesthetics, the syringe hands, the beautiful dial design, the Arabics at quarters, and a nice little date function if you care for it. I think it's the two-tone dial, the two-tone silvery dial. It's a beautiful watch. This would be my suggestion for sub 10K.
Yeah, but Lord, what very interesting pick on this one because it goes against the code of dress watch, right? It has a date complication. It's got a busy dial. So I understand where you're coming from, but what would you classify the dress watch?
The busy dial I don't agree with, but the date function, yes, you might say that's. But then again, do you have to go with just a two-hander with seconds on the sub dial? Is that a must? Because some would also say, well, it has to be precious metal as well. Then we get into very dangerous territory. We can't really remain under 10K. much.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you can
You're
find
absolutely right.
you can find some stuff. Mr. Patek says, for example, what about Breguet?
Hmm.
That's great. What, Mr. Patek, what would you suggest under 10K for a Breguet dress watch? I'm not as familiar with the brand, so I would appreciate that. He also says Blancpain Vieret. So let's see. Blancpain Vieret. No, valid points. Valid points, Joe. I understand.
Well, I
Maybe
mean,
two.
I'm more older, as I'm an older man myself, so I stick to older traditions.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's not a strictly dressy piece when you look at it from that perspective. But yeah, the Blancpain Vieret offers a lot of value, it seems, because you can have it for 40 millimeters here in pink gold, two-hander, nice little watch, ultra thin. I mean, why not? No one can contest. I don't like it, but no one can contest that this is a dress watch, right?
Absolutely, it's a true dress watch.
Roman
Yeah.
numerals, a very simple, plain, beautiful dial, leaf hands, and that's it. Just a two-hander.
Boy,
Precious metal.
whoever suggested that, I hope you're not in super love with it because I don't love it.
That's
That is
okay.
just, ugh, I do not love that.
I
It's
think you
just
can
so
take it.
frail.
Mm.
Yeah, it's so delicate.
So your whole argument's based off of it. It looks fragile.
Yeah, I guess. I'm finding it hard to put it into
I mean,
words what it
fair
is.
enough. I guess fair enough. I mean, I guess there's guys who won't wear APs for the same argument there.
Yeah.
I have a sense that this would be a little more frail than a Royal Oak, but still, I mean, it is what it is, right? What was called a tractor movement in 1972 is not as robust and reliable as movements produced in the 21st century. So let's hope the new generation of movement that they built from scratch for 16202 for the new generation of Royal Oaks maybe it's more robust. Who knows? I have no clue. Yasha V says 5170 for the Breguet is in the 10K area. Let's see that.
Yeah, I looked that up.
Pretty
At
old.
first, I thought he said like Paddock 5170. I'm like, what?
No. Yeah, I was also misled, but yeah, Chrono
And
24
pre-owned.
doesn't have any examples either of the Breguet either, but that can be a good suggestion. Yes, Breguet 5170, guys. And 49's Fine says at a higher price point, JLC Master Ultra Thin Perpetual. Oh, that's an amazing watch. Um, look, one of the great things you get with a Gégé Lecoultre perpetual calendar is that it builds on the famous Kurt Klaus perpetual calendar module, which allows you to just um, adjust everything with a single pusher.
Wow.
So uh, you manipulate it once, and then you don't have to do anything until the next century, as long as you keep that watch running. And that's even a further gain, so to speak, when you have it on the new Polaris, because it's technically a dive watch, right? At least a very robust sports watch, even with that perpetual calendar function. On a rubber band, you can even take it to water. You don't have 15 different pushers around the case that would make it even riskier to to take it into
Yeah.
water. So it's fantastic.
I
Pauli
mean,
said, can I just a little PSA, guys? We're halfway through, So if you have liked the show, please upvote. If you have been enjoying it, learning something from it, please hit that like button. Spread the word, share the link on other platforms. It helps me a great deal. I'm getting that much closer to 1,000 subs, and ultimately, that is my first major goal, to get the channel monetized. And if in the meantime you want to support the channel, you want to encourage me in creating exclusive and original content, to run more of these live streams, you can always consider a PayPal contribution at lordhellespontv@gmail.com. That's lordhellespontv@gmail.com. I also have a Cash App at $LHVVV, $LHVVV.
Send money now to Lord's Plumbing. He needs a new bowl again.
Thank you.
Yeah. Boy, I do like that next question coming up that 4-9's Fine has got there. I'm interested to see that comparison.
Let's do it. I just want to give a sight of that ultra thin perpetual calendar before we move on. Oh, I actually have a beautiful little short of 2 different versions of it on my channel, so I will just share that, and people can take a quick look at it. Let's see. Do I? Not sure. So what was the next question, by the way? In the meantime, maybe Justin, you can read that for me.
You mean the one I was referring to?
Yeah, the IWC.
Yeah,
it's
an F1 the Patronus versus the Breitling Navitimer 43 Ice Blue. Yeah.
Yeah, these, by the way, can be gotten for, I think if you're patient, if you wait until the end of the year, nowadays they're trending around 17,000. I'm sure you can get one for 15 in the secondary market if you're looking at
this is a Doctor Strange watch, right? So these aren't gonna decline anytime soon. At least for the next 6 months, you won't be able to get discounts on these.
Hey, thank you, Paul Lee. And Yasha V says anything from the classique range for the Breguet. And this is our question, but before that, 4-9's Fine says Lord needs some jerk off money. Justin, as much as we center on Watch Talk, we have already developed some terminology on this channel. So when I ask for contributions, we either say it's going into dirty magazines and jerk off money or to plumbing. So I hope you are fine with that.
Understood. Remember what I used to do, and I've heard it all, almost all. That's right.
So Mr. IWC F1 Petronas. So let's start with IWC. This is the watch that basically has this season's hype color. They get away with it, of course, because it is actually part of the livery of the Formula One team, Petronas.
Right.
And this is the pilot's chronograph, special edition. I think it's around what, 8,500 new.
Just looking at it the other day.
Is that sigh positive or negative, Justin?
It was a frustration that I can't remember. I was just looking at it the other day. I'm gonna say it is around 10 grand, but I think it's 10 grand Canadian. So
okay, yeah. So it's sub top 10K. Let's put it like that.
Yeah.
Canadian dollar, as much as we love Canada, is the official currency of Archie Luxury Livestream, and
Yes, it is.
Untimely Meditations operates on US dollar or Swiss francs.
Real money. Real money.
Not the peso. Yeah, the Canadian peso.
You know what? Okay, I mean, I feel a little guilty about it, but I actually kind of like this watch.
I love it.
What is it? Like,
Unashamedly,
yeah.
unapologetically, I like this. I like this.
This is like a 43 mil, right?
Yes.
Well,
Oh, fuck me then.
yeah.
No, 41. 41, it says.
Mm.
Navitimer is the 43 one.
I bet you this would ride like a 42 though.
I would hope.
Maybe.
Yeah, there it is right there. Yeah.
Yeah,
I would hope.
Go ahead, Justin.
I would hope that it does wear a little larger than what that number dictates. That's about the smallest watch that I could wear.
Mm.
And just while we're on that watch, do you remember the Zin 356? This is a striking similarity to it. It's hard not to be the same if you have the standard Flieger configuration. But do you remember that one? That's what this watch reminds me of. I love both. I like this one very much.
Do not actually remember. No. Let me pull it up so we can get a.
I hope I got my numbers right now.
I actually do like it though. It's the Tiffany. It's hyped up. That's why I like it.
Yeah, I think. Look, I mean that. I don't know. I kind of like the accents on the dial as well. I like the rubber and the extra strap. I think it's like a sailcloth strap that comes with it. I mean, I don't know if it is a watch that warrants that kind of money necessarily. But let's look at the Navitimer 43 with the ice blue before we make our final decision.
Lord, I'm actually considering an IWC. I've been considering an IWC for like the past month here.
Say it again?
They don't get enough love. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, like I said, I've been considering an IWC for the past month. My only issue is I feel like they're going to be harder to dump than a Grand Seiko.
Then keep it.
It's nice to do that.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like it. I'm going to pull a Mike the Snake on here and say this will look very attractive on a woman. I think it's just sexy. It's just, if I see my rep wearing these, I'd say wow.
You need a little more. But
dude, I've been sick for like the past 2 weeks. Yeah, like I'm off of my Mike the Snake. I need to practice it more.
Know. But I like this one. This is nice.
Nice. I think honestly they are 49's fine. Ask this question at any rate because it's at the same price range, the two watches. And frankly, now that I look at this, I think I would go with Breitling, but I think they're both cool watches. I just feel when it comes to a chronograph, Navitimer has the better pedigree. Honestly, as much as I like IWC, as much as I'm, I rank pretty highly on the register of Günther Blümlein Fanboy Club. My vote for this one is for the Navitimer.
I'll take both. Why not? I'll buy them both.
Well, it was a versus, Jackson. It's not that's not fair. It was a versus. You have to make.
I'm moving my own goalposts here. I want both. Thank you.
I go IWC.
All right. So basically,
for 2 reasons. One, I'm willing to bet the IWC you can actually sweat in, unlike that Navitimer where if you sweat in it, you're screwed. And two, Um, that Breitling just looks a bit feminine to me. I'm not saying that this doesn't look feminine as well, but
Yo,
it just looks a bit feminine to where I wouldn't wear it, honestly.
Wow.
Jesus, a 43 millimeter chronograph is not gonna look feminine how hard you try it, even if it were in hot pink. But all right. But I do take your first point very seriously. I mean, this comes with both the rubber and the kind of nylon slash, yeah, I think it's just a nylon strap, and with some sort of easy change, ease X change system, whatever that means. So it does have a more utilitarian and modular aspect to it, maybe a little sportier for that reason.
Look at the
Titanium,
water resistance.
lighter.
Mm.
Let's see, water resistance 10 bar for the IWC.
100 meters?
Yes.
Shit, it even has
Oh.
better water resistance than JLC. Better than a Speedmaster.
There's no way I'd wear that in the pool. Mm-mm.
Well, I mean, I think any
You could at
chronograph,
least sweat in this one. That's the point. You could at
right?
least, you know.
Yep. Yeah.
Any chronograph, you're kind of asking for trouble, but I mean, simply because of the points of entry, and Navitimer is 3 bars though, so that
Fucking forget about it. Yeah, IWC.
Wow, this is a close one for me. I'm gonna make a choice. I'm not gonna pussy out here. Oh, look at that, 43 already. I like
Mhm.
this. Okay, I'm gonna do it. Here it comes. Ready?
Yes, please.
Boy, Breitling by 51 to 49. Breitling
Okay.
takes the day.
By a
I love that other one, but
by a hairline,
Breitling,
so to speak.
there you go.
Yeah, my vote is also for the Breitling, but then again, it's because it's more classically inspired with that, on that black croc strap with contrast stitching. It's just sporty enough. IWC is, in this comparison, it's a better sports watch. Comes on 2 very utilitarian bracelets that you can wear and tear for the everyday. It has better water resistance. So it has everything going for it for that reason as well. It's in titanium, so it's a lighter watch. So
How about
it's
this?
a cool
If
watch. But I
how about
like
this?
this one. Go ahead,
Um,
Justin. Sorry.
that sailcloth, let's call it, strap from the IWC, put some light blue contrast stitching on that and put it on this Breitling, and you've got something. If you
Yep,
can visualize that, beautiful.
you can, and this is basically, it's like 22 millimeter lug width tapering down to 18. So you can, if you find a nylon slash sailcloth kind of strap for this, it can work with the Breitling as well, of course. But
Nice, very nice.
out of the box, yes, it's IWC as a as a sports watch has a little bit more going for it, even though my vote is still for the Breitling.
Did you catch that power reserve? 70 hours. It's not bad.
Yeah, and
Impressive.
that is one realm where it beats the IWC, which is 46 hours.
Mhm.
I want to see whether that's achieved by a lower frequency. No, it's still standard high beat, not high beat, but standard 28,800 beats per hour.
Smaller
Yeah,
barrel. Yeah, that's what I think.
that's cool. I like them both, honestly, but my vote is for the Breitling as well.
All right. Good question.
Mr. Patek votes against IWC at all costs. For the dress watch, I think Thomas is joining us with a little bit of delay. He he's saying Rolex Prince Cellini or Vacheron Constantin 240th anniversary. Those could be good under 10K options.
Not
I think.
even a comparison. Vacheron by default.
I think Prince Cellini is actually a very good deal right now. But anyway,
Lloyd, would you buy Cellini? I mean, if you were forced to buy one, would you buy one? If it got you one step closer to that red letter C dweller that said if the 80 called you
no,
and
no,
said, hey,
no, no, no.
we
I'm
need you
not.
to buy some garbage from
No,
us. We got a Cellini.
no. Cellini. First of all, Cellini is not garbage, but I would not play those games. I just don't like that. If a
It's the most
dealer is
undesirable
willing
Rolex
to,
in the catalog.
well, I mean, I do not care. I kind of like this watch, but I'm not gonna buy it so I can have the privilege of getting another piece at retail. That's just not how I operate. But that's fine. You know that they'll find a buyer for it, for both of them. Mr. Patek says there are 100 other variations of that IWC if you don't like that one, and he doesn't mean it as a good thing. 49's Fine says, thank you, gents. Thank you, man. That was a good question. I think it allowed us to jog our brains a little bit. That's helpful. Mr. Patek is coming in with further. Rather have a Ballon Ross belly tanker than an IWC chrono. Man.
Ooh, tough crowd. Tough
Fish.
crowd.
Fish.
Cellini is a real nice dress watch. I wouldn't mind having one. Hey, man, the Rolex Cellini Prince is like Rolex's little experiment in high horology. Basically, it has a nice exhibition case back with a movement that's decorated in the same way as the dial. If you can find one right under 10K, that's a great grab.
What
I mean, and
movement is
Lord, I
that?
thought Cellinis were using submariner movements at one time.
Are
At
you
least on the
crazy?
base Cellini.
We're talking about Cellini Prince, man. The rectangular watch.
I still want
That's
one of them,
different.
but okay, fair enough. I
No,
know what you're talking about now.
I
Yeah.
understand, but it's not a submariner movement at all.
Oh, is that the Art Deco?
Yes, sir.
Oh, that Bear was talking about. He did a really good, review of his, and yeah.
So you see, this is what I mean. This is the movement, right?
Okay.
You see how it has that sun
Oh.
ray decoration,
Mm-hmm.
manual wind, and
All right,
then
I'll eat some of my words. All right, these aren't too bad. I mean, would I still
Mm-hmm.
buy one? Probably not, but I can respect them.
white gold. Right now it's right under 11. Wait until the end of the year. Maybe they will drop a little bit more. This could be an interesting dress watch, and it still
That's
fits.
cool.
It fits our bill in the sense that it's not a Datejust or Reverso, but it's a little over 10K. So with patience, you might find the right deal. 49's fine. I think it was 49's fine who asked that earlier question as well. I think so. But yes.
Yeah, nice. Like it. Let's
Yasha
see the
V
other.
says, I'd buy a Cellini Prince, no sweat. They say they come with a paper, all Rolex collector paper. Nice one. Also, Yasha, I think you're from Russia, possibly. Can you explain to me what those parentheses mean? I get sometimes texts like that from Russian people, and I can never quite tell. Are those supposed to be like smiles?
I think so. Smiles
Enlighten
with a
me,
Four
wink.
please.
smiles. You got four
Yeah.
smiles. He's laughing, maybe. Maybe.
Mother
Oh,
Obama Cellini used 3132, the previous generation Explorer movement. Yes, the round ones. I don't. Yeah, I get it. But the Cellini prints have very unique movements. I don't think that are used in any other Rolex watch. But they're not even part of the lineup anymore. So
yeah. So
yeah,
at 3132, if the 5 meant date on the, say, the subs, what does the 2 mean? I wonder what.
Say that again,
Just
please.
curious. The 3135s, the 5 indicated in a Rolex sub the date function. So what? I wonder if any of you super brainiacs know what the 2 on the end would signify, because it maybe just a smaller version or something like that. Because they're
I
very
think
specific when it comes to those movements.
I think it's simply because it's the earlier generation and the numbers kept increasing. Unlike the Rolex reference numbers, which sometimes do make sense in the way you are talking about, right? You know,
Mm-hmm.
it can designate, like, you know, two-tone, a particular kind of precious metal, etc., especially the very last number. But other than that, I don't think it has any profound designation. 495 says it's like ha 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 ha. Yashagi says 3132 is no date with Rolex shocks. That's a good explanation, actually.
Thank you. Good.
Thomas Broadband says only 25 more for
Subs, maybe?
to 600 to call 2 friends now. Yeah, if you call 2 more friends, yes, it's 573 right now. But it oscillates, you know. Sometimes people unsub, some people subscribe. Every day it's like plus or 2 or 3 usually. But it's okay. I'm putting in the
Yeah.
work and I'm patient.
You're creeping up there. You're creeping up. It's good.
Right. Big Meech, are you still there? No. So how many
Yeah,
pieces
I'm just yeah.
do you have in your collection now, Justin?
Oh, ones that I can call serious watches. 1, 2, 3. I just put them in my safe, so I'm just going by memory here. 1, 2, 3. I would say 4. Let's call it 3. I am trying to boil it down to 3. I've got a Breitling Chronomat.
Hmm.
Chrono. What do I have? Obviously my Sea Dweller, and I do have one special watch that barely moves the needle, but it's a Magretti, and it has very great sentimental value to me.
Hmm.
I don't know if you're interested in hearing it, and I'll try and piece it together.
Yes, please.
Let's see. I lost my mom about 3 years ago, and obviously we saw it coming. But when it finally happens, obviously that takes the wind out of your sails. And I just remember saying, you know what, I didn't really do much with watches at the time. I was maybe just looking, sniffing around, but I said, you know what,
Hmm.
I've always liked this one watch, and son of a gun, I'm gonna grab it. And it's a Magretti Pacific Professional, I believe it's called. I love it. But they're getting to be like hen's teeth. They only make 100 or maybe 500 of each version, and as time goes by, they've been out of production for a while. But I found one on Chrono 24, and it was new old stock, and so I said I must have this. He was asking, a hefty price considering its original price, but I had to grab it. So went through the whole thing and looked at all the pictures. Yep, I'll buy it, and started discussing the shipping options and stuff like that with the seller. And I asked, by the way, hey, can you show me? Oh, thank you very much. That's it. Uh, can you show me the serial number on it?
Mm.
And just out of curiosity, and it's number 56, and I kind of went, hey, that's my birth year. I think
Mm,
I got this for a reason, you know.
nice.
Then at the cherry on top was I'm asking the seller, by the way, you're in Holland, right? And he goes, yeah. And he says, my mom was born in Hengelo. And he says, how close are you to that? And he goes, just a couple of kilometers up the road. And I went, oh,
Wow.
you know, that just sometimes things just come together and we are left to our imaginations what that means, if anything. So I posted this little story up on a Dive Watch forum,
Mm,
generic Dive Watch forum, okay? A lot of people say, hey, great story, thank you. And there's one particular response to it, and it was that really caught my eye, and that was the president, CEO of Magreti. And he says, you know what? I'm pretty reclusive. I never go on social media, but your story touched me. I just had to mention, thank you for sharing that. And I'm glad that
uh,
we were a part of that memory. And I thought, wow, you know. So
it's
that
very
watch
cool.
does, it's under $1,000, but it means the world to me. Thanks for indulging me.
Oh yeah, man. It's a beautiful story, and I'm sorry for your loss, and I hope she rests in peace. My
Definitely. Thank you.
condolences.
Thanks.
Um, but we began with that idea of how we have emotional and sometimes irrational connections to these timepieces, and how our personal stories matter absolutely, to what watches we acquire and what watches we end up keeping in our collection. So that matters quite a bit. But you are basically a dive watch guy, Justin. This is what I'm figuring out as well with the
Yeah.
story.
Yeah. A diver and a flieger. I oh yeah, I've got a Russian flieger here too. So, hmm
And this was a limited edition of 500, apparently, right?
right. As I understand it, yes.
Yeah, I mean, look, I like it. I like this watch because it's not trying to be something else. It has a version of a cushion case, but not really, because it's also its own thing.
Mm.
Um, of course, the dial layout, I haven't seen it replicated anywhere else. And it goes well with the rotating bezel as well.
And look at the back. You'll see some. They have a very unique kind of a how do I put it? A New Zealand type of native je ne sais quoi. I don't know what they call that, but
This is
it's
the logo.
well, that's the start of it, but I guess it's on their case. It comes very, very well presented, by the way. Nice, beautiful leather case,
Mm,
additional brown leather strap. I think there's a cloth in it. This is very nice. Oh, there
cool.
we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like if we were to put a Longines Hydro Conquest on steroids. That's what I kind of get a vibe from when I
Hmm.
see this. A conquest on steroids.
Mm, I like it. Thomas
Good.
says the case shape is strong and subtle. They drop like a rock. It is a big watch. It's a hefty watch. I mean, it's 44, and cushion case usually wears really well, sits well on the wrist. So it will it will not it will not be huge, I think, but it will still have a lot of presence. What do you think? You like bigger watches, Justin?
This one's a 44, I believe, and it's perfect. Absolutely perfect
Does it
for
wear
my.
bigger or
No,
smaller than your seat
it.
dweller?
Oh, I would have to say about the same. I don't think it's quite as thick as the Sea Dweller, but the
Hmm.
rest is very, very similar.
Cool. Yeah, it's 500-meter water resistant, double dome sapphire crystal, anti-reflective coating, um, stainless steel.
I mean, the movement's no heck, but it goes around. It's correct twice a day at the very least, so I'm good with it.
That's a good way to put it.
Actually, it's decent. Keeps
Where
decent time.
I like it. I was positively surprised. It's not a brand or watch that I knew anything about before you mentioned it. So thank you for sharing it, and your story made it a lot more special. Of course, Justin.
My pleasure.
Uh, Big Meech, what is next for you? What do you want to get?
Fuck, I was just having this conversation with Lolex. I know I
Fuck Rolex.
want something.
Fuck Rolex. Have it with me.
Fucking hell, Laura. Tell us how you really feel, right? Jeez. But I know I want something. I just don't know what the fuck I want, honestly. Um,
Mm.
like if the AD were to call me today, if my girls called me up and said, "Hey, we got a root beer, we got a root beer. Oh, we got a a Cermet, a Pepsi.
At
Yeah, for sure.
retail? At retail or
A
at
retail,
retail
at
or
retail.
second hand?
Yeah,
Okay.
not the one in the Twin Cities. But yeah, I take it. But I want something different. Yeah, like I said, I've been eyeing IWC. I've been eyeing Grand Seiko again, and I can't believe I'm fucking saying that. But everything I really want is too fucking big for me, or I just it doesn't tick the box of having what I needed to have, you know.
Hmm.
And so I have no clue what I want. I just know I want something.
You have an itch to scratch, but you don't know where it is. Huh?
Boy, don't we
Yeah.
all know that?
I see Adi is requesting I make more food. The
Peeping
only
time.
problem is if I buy that
Yeah.
Grand Seiko, I'm fucked again, you know? I mean, it's a
Which
spring drive, but it's fucked.
which Grand Seiko are we talking about?
Maybe the Grand Seiko Winter.
Ah,
Okay. Yeah.
let's pull that up.
Is that what they're calling it now? Or is that your spin?
No, that is what they're calling it.
Oh, okay.
It's like they have a Four Seasons special edition, no?
Yeah.
Right?
So I made a joke that like the design team of Grand Seiko would be walking in the dog park and they would watch a dog shit and that would be the next inspiration for their next watch, which technically would be fitting for them, but you know.
Um, I think it's this one, the Taisetsu, the deep snow of winter. Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
I mean, it has a date complication. It's a fucking Seiko, so if nobody's gonna rob me for it because nobody wants fucking Seikos, right? Um, and if I were to beat it to shit, I'm not gonna feel bad because hey, it's a Seiko. So I mean, who gives a shit?
It's making you mad even before you've bought it. That must have
That's yeah,
special
it's the
powers.
point.
Yeah.
It's fucking dog shit. That's what it is. It's atrocious. It's an abomination.
Sold. I'll take it.
Look, I mean, I tried everything to like Spring Drive, and I do appreciate the engineering that goes into it to make a sweeping hand out of what is basically a hybrid movement. I've even listened to the full lecture the Horological Society of New York posted on their website. I just can't. I can't. You know, and to me, yes, it's an interesting dial, and so was the Snowflake. I think that's a beautiful dial as well. So is many other Grand Seiko dials. And I think to me, that's actually good and bad for the brand because I feel the work they do on the dial in terms of the visual interest and finishing of the indices and the hands, just it's not reflected on the bracelet.
Yeah, the
and
bracelet's
and
dog shit.
and even not the case. I mean, I don't think the case finishing is that immaculate, honestly. um
Well,
so
perhaps the photos don't do it justice, but your earlier comment, I'm not surprised by that. You strike me as a Renaissance man who just appreciates where art meets science, and you're a little leery about that electronic slash quartz finish to the drivetrain. Am I correct?
yeah, I mean, I never cared about that sort of accuracy and precision in my watches, honestly. I feel
How
bad
ironic.
saying it sometimes, but it is what it is. I mean,
Yeah,
if it gets the minute right, more or less, it's fine.
sure.
But the
Um,
only reason I'd want this is because, aside from everything I've just mentioned, I'd find it witty because they live in possibly, arguably, the coldest and most miserable fucking place to live during winter. You know, and it's like it would just fucking it's like a giant pun for me.
South of the 49th parallel. Yeah,
um, this
I
is
could
by
vouch
the
for
way.
that.
But it's either that or an IWC.
This is what Peeping Time is looking for. Apparently, a Damasco D sub 3. Hey, a diver with orange accents. I'll always say yes. I don't know how much these sell for, um, but they they're all the way up to 3,000 now. Are they? No, that's another
Wow.
watch. No, that's another
Yeah,
watch. That's like a chronograph. How much is this one?
that should be like 9, 12. Man, I'm
Hmm.
lowballing, but it can't be much more than that. I'm gonna say
Yeah.
1200.
Peeping Time, update us on what these go for these days, because I really don't remember. America's Army reminds everyone to upvote. Hey, I'll take this time to say again, if you have been enjoying the show, please hit that like button, share the word, share the link on other platforms, spread the word. And if you can help me get that much closer to 1,000 subs and to monetization, that would be invaluable. In the meantime, if you want to support me, if you want to encourage me, you can always consider a contribution on PayPal at lordhellespontv@gmail.com, lordhellespontv@gmail.com. I also have Cash App, $LHVVV, $LHVVV.
Good
Spend money
public
now,
service
you
announcement.
cheap punters.
You could always get a big green logo up there that says that.
Send
I've
money
seen
now.
it done other places.
Spend money now, cheap punters.
No, honestly, at this point, I appreciate
Please don't.
every penny counts, as long as this channel is self-sustaining until we get monetized. But until then, spreading the word and sharing the link on other platforms probably means even more to me. So if you can do that, hey, I appreciate that. Peeping Time says the Damasco D sub 3 rates around, well, goes for around 1,500 US dollars. And for the Seiko, Thomas says go pre-owned. Sweet movement you will see at 6K. By the way, Justin, just to correct one thing, there is a nice Grand Seiko boutique on in Beverly Hills on Rodeo Drive, actually, and I've gone many times. And again, I do like a lot of their watches. Don't take me wrong. I just yeah, for me, it really requires a leap of faith um, that I just don't can't make from prospects presage to Grand Seiko. I love Seiko. I'm a huge fan of the brand. But what I've seen at Feldmar Watch, which is also in the West LA environs, and their own boutique on Rodeo Drive, it just couldn't. Yeah, it didn't
Well,
click.
Lord, you're absolutely. It's a tough sell. Like you there's like I gotta well look I've got no love for Seiko. I mean, at least just in general, but you cannot tell me that Zeratsu polishing is nothing more than bullshit. All right, it's just you take Mr. Clean, you take a little wax on there, you buff the fucker out, and you fucking hell. That's and there's a reason why not every company is going to do it because, like somebody stated before, it scratches like a motherfucker, and that is true. That's why not every company you see out there is doing it because it's detrimental.
No, I
It
mean,
defeats the point, I guess.
to be absolutely fair, the marketing around Zaratsu polishing is not any different than the use of German silver and double assembly in Erlangen und Söhne, the history and reliability and dynamism of Rolex's history. Everyone has a bit about their brand identity that they fatten up a little, that they blow out of proportion, that they embellish a little too enthusiastically. So I understand, and I'm saying the same thing. Basically, I said,
Right.
on the dial, on the face of the watch, I can see what they mean about polishing and about the level of crafty detail. But
Right.
once you start zooming out of the dial, it's just like any other watch, and you
Just
can
say it, Lord. Say it, Lord. Just say it's just the Seiko. Say it.
no, it's
Say
like, other than the face of the watch, other than the dial of the watch, I can't see anything that justifies the price points
just
for a Grand Seiko. You can get better watches at that price, especially if you dip into the pre-owned market between 5 to 7K. There's so much value. I mean, it's
What is that price
unbelievable.
point? What is that price point, by the way?
So how much
$6,000.
would you pay for the 6K for the Grand Seiko?
Well, I mean, no,
Junior?
I mean that's the only. So I did a little research. I think you can get them for like $500 discount at most. But yeah,
Okay.
they seem to hold their value pretty decently. I don't know if that's because people aren't buying them or they're just I don't know, but they seem to hold fairly okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
At that price point, I'd go for an Omega. I know it's
But most Omegas don't fucking fit me. That's the problem. So the IWC on the flip side of the coin, though, you're paying 4.5 for an ETA, which, ooh, it's nasty and vicious for an IWC at $4,000. Oh, well, technically $5,000. Mm.
oh, I like that avatar.
do you
I like
recognize?
John. Yeah, I like
Yeah.
John.
Yeah.
I like him very much. I just remember him at his dad's funeral putting up the
Mm.
salute. I'm not much different in age. I think there's just a few years apart. If he were around,
Well,
so I.
Justin, as far as I can tell, you're still alive, so you have that going for you over JFK Jr.
It's
Jesus
just a hologram.
Christ.
Barely, yeah.
But yeah,
Some days.
that must have been, for my generation, it was the Lady Diana funeral that was a little definitive and equally heartbreaking.
Mm,
And I guess that was Kennedy's funeral for you guys. I can
that's
only
right.
imagine. Yeah. Yeah, I remember Prince Harry from that. Yeah, it was just too much. Peeping Time says, compare Grand Seiko to the Sam Martin SN 009. I like Peeping Time because he has a very broad number of selections and choices that he brings to the table. Right here, yeah, this is as an alternative to the Grand Seiko divers. I guess this could be interesting, and it has the
These
same.
boys are thick. I mean, they're just monsters.
Yeah, I
or it's very
remember
similar.
I tried on the limited edition Grand Seiko diver for the boutique. That was huge, but somehow incredibly wearable as well.
They're lightweight.
At
Aren't we talking
47, I
like
believe.
40? Oh, I was gonna say 46. So that's big.
This I think is this at 47 as well? Let's see. This is
I've never
44.
heard of these guys.
Me neither, but that's why I love having um peeping time in the chat. Sam Martin. Hey, under 400. Apparently you can get it without logo.
Nice, nice price.
A little harsh, but hey, yeah,
Probably
I
the same
mean,
build quality as a Grand Seiko.
you're such an enthusiastic fan of the brand, man.
I should be an ambassador. There you go.
Well, that's two
Oh,
brands
speaking of
now we know that it
ambassadors,
has a.
I heard something very interesting. So, my boutique, the girls there tried to feed me some bullshit story and shove it up my ass saying that David Beckham is not paid by Tudor and he just wears the brand because he likes it so much. I call bullshit on that. They allegedly he has not taken a single dime from Tudor. I call
Um,
bullshit.
I don't think his
well,
agent would allow that. A guy who
I,
who has such a high profile. If he's gonna wear a watch, he's gonna make sure he gets paid for it.
But
My
on the
thoughts.
flip side, it would make sense why he wears Rolexes sometimes. Because if you're going to be a brand ambassador, you
hmm,
should only stick to one brand.
Hmm.
right,
Maybe they make an exception for the Tudor, since it's a in quotes sister brand.
Yeah,
perhaps.
I just have a hard time believing that. I think that's a bunch of bullshit, honestly. Like, oh yeah, David
Honestly,
Beckham just loves our watches so much. He's he gets them from Tudor early releases. Yeah, whatever. Get the fuck
you
out
know
of
what
here.
I'm gonna say, and for me, the reason I smell bullshit is because I was talking about this right before you jumped on, Joe, and even right before you jumped on, I think Justin. Rolex aggressively, like in throughout its history, they used to aggressively deny that they had any marketing placement, that whoever wears their watches wears it of their own volition because it belongs on their wrist, blah, 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 blah. But when it comes to a lot of the Hollywood scenes with which Rolex watches are associated, of course, they were always placed there. They may not have in that case gotten some extra cash from it, but they certainly got free watches out of it for sure. But Justin touched on something else. I mean, Beckham, I think, was in a way both underrated and overrated. I think he was a fine player, but because of how marketable his image was, people who hated him underrated his skills, and people who loved him made him into a footballing great, which he never. I mean, he was never at the level of Cristiano Ronaldo or Leonardo Messi. But then
No.
again, who else is? Um, that being said, yeah, when you have that kind of image value and likeness value, you are not just going to settle with free watches, which he gets, of course, that are also customized for him. For example, you have something here that has the logo of the team, Inter Miami, that he owns. Um, so, yeah, all that being said, I find it a little bit of an incredible story.
Hmm. Cool looking watch though.
It
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Oh, by the
Yeah,
way, just completely off topic here,
sure.
Lord H. I must commend you for your impeccable pronunciation of German brands and French brands and of course the Italian brands. As a German speaker, I really appreciate effort and the
Ah,
execution.
ich wusste nicht, dass Sie Deutsch sprechen.
Ja, ich habe, oh, das war meine erste Sprache. Aber
Als
wenn,
Fremdsprache oder
well,
als Muttersprache?
ja, ja.
Okay. So
Und Französisch
okay.
auch ein bisschen.
You and that's because you are in Canada, I'm guessing.
Yep.
Or yeah.
hmm Yeah, we're taught from grade 8 or middle school on up, and a lot of people paid attention and a lot of them didn't. I happen to, well, once you have two languages under your belt, the third one comes easier, especially if it's
Mhm.
rooted in the European, right?
Yes.
And also, my French teacher was as hot as heck. Oy. She used to, she used to wear these fishnet stockings, and she would sit on my desk. I After that, I couldn't even get up. I couldn't even stand up.
I
Whew.
wonder why.
I was just at that age, you know what I mean?
You were
Everything
just
was,
you were just stunned. Let's put it like that.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Stunned in all the right places. Oh, wow.
man. Hey, um I love languages, and when it comes to learning another language, nothing gets you in the zone as well as pillow talk and learning from someone that you truly love in one way or another. It can be a distant relative, it can be a love interest, romantic interest.
Busty
um,
co-eds.
What an interesting point. As opposed to just out of a book, you know?
but no, I mean, someone in the chat one time said, well, wow, this guy really takes pleasure in pronouncing French words. And I'm like, I do, because it reminds me of someone I loved, and I learned most of my French from sheer exposure and from
Okay.
from someone I lived with. So I do actually love pronouncing French words for that reason. Not
hmm
because it's not because it's sophisticated or pretentious or whatever, but because it reminds me of someone I loved in at a point in time.
For myself, I also take the broader approach. I appreciate the language and the people who speak it. Therefore, it deserves your best efforts to try it. I understand a lot of uh, one language speaking people will
Mhm.
have difficulties with it, so I allow for that. Absolutely.
Dirk Diggler, hey man, thank you for all the thumbs up. JB, how are you doing today? In the 5K range and IWC, you should see the IWC Portofino chronograph, IW 391407. That's what we have on the screen. Honestly, when it comes to a two register, two subdial layout, I don't mind this. I like the more classical placement, one here, one there. And I do prefer the two subdial chronographs, but this is the only one that I truly can't bear is when they have three with another at 9 o'clock. That for some reason really um, pokes my eyes out. I don't know why. I feel very strongly about that, but this is nice. I think it's a very classical chronograph, and I'm guessing this is an ETA based movement.
Probably if it's under $5,000. If it's under $5,000.
In the secondary
Almost.
market, it can be under, but right now it's 6,100 actually.
It's okay.
I just don't think IWC puts a whole lot of in-house. Oh, I take that back because the what the fuck is it? The Skyline? I can't remember IWC's catalog very well, but there is one that they came out with that was in-house, and it's like $4,500.
Hmm.
What's that business at 12 and 6? The what they put for numerals there. That looks kind of weird.
Yeah, so IWC caliber 79350 is based on yeah, I mean it's the typical chronograph movement, the generic one, ETA Valjoux 7750, which is what a lot of brands use actually for their chronographs. So um if you don't mind that, and this has a relatively unique layout for it, honestly, I mean, it's not it's not extremely attractive to me, but I like it. I like it more than what we were looking at before. With all due respect, maybe it's
Hmm.
because it's dressier. Um, I
Yeah, I
would
don't
still
mind
go
it.
with the Navitimer, but I know that's in another price segment altogether for sure.
I always love blued hands
Yeah,
against the silver
yeah.
background. I'm a
Blue
sucker for that.
hands and markers. Yeah, the I mean that's one of my favorite things about movement decoration as well. You know, anything actually kiln fired, you know, heat blued, whatever you want to call it, screws, hands, markers. I love it. I love it. I also love black polish too, which
Mm.
if you have seen anyone work like that, you know, at least in a video, I think it's a worthy uh, you know, it's worth watching, um, and you appreciate, because you know any imperfection shows, of course. You know, the you have to finish it perfectly for something to be completely black polished, so it doesn't reflect light in any way. You get one thing wrong, the whole thing goes. So
By the way, just off topic, Jake. So that's a Buffalo Bills logo. I thought your Bills were going to
it
go
is.
further. I was hoping, even as a Bears fan, I was hoping you guys would advance. But it was not meant to be. Too bad.
Thomas has a nice witty question for Meech. He says, "What is your black sheep watch?"
Hmm. Black Sheep,
Now
the
that
family.
now that you have gotten rid of the Grand Seiko, you have to think a little bit about this.
Well, not really. It's a Speedmaster. It's got to be the Speedmaster.
Really?
Um,
Can't
yeah,
wait to hear why.
it's too big on my wrist. It goes against everything that I would require of a watch. Uh, the resale value kind of tanks on them. Yeah, Speedmaster, hundred
Didn't you
percent.
just buy that
Yeah,
like a few months ago?
like a couple weeks ago. Yeah,
Oh, okay. That's that recent. Wow.
that's supposed to spend about a month now, but yeah.
Man. And JB says it still hurts about the
No
Bills.
doubt. I
Yeah.
know. Just want to show them a little love there. By the way, if anybody were to ask me that, I'll just quickly butt in and say, given the situation in Ukraine, I do have a clock mounted on my desk that's pulled from a MiG jet. That would be my, and it works, by the way.
Hmm.
Doesn't keep fantastic time, but it does work. Uh, I would call that my black sheep
Hmm.
horological piece right now.
Yeah, I guess, you know, in my case, my black sheep is probably the SKX 007. I like the 009 a little better because I think that's you know, it's just so gimmicky. I love it. Like the Pepsi bezel for the diver and the blue dial. It's just cool. I love wearing that to the pool. So it's just Though it has to be SKX 007. Even though I love every single watch I have. I don't even know
Yeah.
which one to choose as black sheep, honestly. But
You know what? Who
it is what it
haven't
is.
we all had one, right? But who? Yeah, who? That watch needs to apologize for nothing, and it owes nobody anything except for the hands to go round and round. Because
Oh, I
considering the price, right?
now I know what I can call my true black sheep watch because I even forgot about it. I have a I have a Swatch System 51 from the first run, plastic, mostly black with red accents, like their automatic watch, that
Hmm.
like the irreparable one, the one that cannot be repaired because the case doesn't
Oh,
open because it's
oh boy!
entirely made by machines.
Wow.
So that's my
How
true
long
black
is it?
sheep watch.
Okay, still running. Hopefully.
Yeah, perfectly
Okay.
well.
Nice.
But yeah, it can't be regulated because you can't open the case. So
That's
it
weird.
can't be repaired if it fails at some point.
It
So,
truly is a one and done. There we go.
and when you're done, you're truly done.
Can you imagine just chucking it in the can? Yeah.
America's Army here for Germany goes wintertime UTC GMT +1. Sommerzeit is UTC GMT +2. Where is my location? My location is LA, Los Angeles, California. So it's almost,
Let's see.
yeah, we're 20 minutes away from 10 p.m.
How far are you from South Hill?
A short walk.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
a very short
Cool.
walk because I'm actually in downtown LA, so I'm not even
Okay.
kidding. It's a short walk. Um,
Okay.
and I mean that's actually it's somehow in a funny way it does make sense as a how to put it uh, as a watch dealer location because as you know this is the jewelry district basically downtown LA is where the jewelry district is
Okay.
and you used to find some great deals before everything got mad and I'm sure you know soon enough it will return to that time where you could find some very strange deals. Of course, you are taking all sorts of risks, but hey, if you know what you're looking for, and if you can actually make sense of the watch you see, and you don't care
Hmm.
about box papers, provenance, and this and that, you just want to get a
Somebody
watch at a
wearing it. Yeah.
good
Somebody
deal.
wearing it in the gym. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's a good place to. It used to be a good place to get a watch. Now they have gotten a little too smart and snooty as everyone else. Um,
Hmm.
but the market is in, I think, overdue a correction, and we have started seeing it as you guys have. Everything that people call a collapse has been minor corrections so far, but I think we are going to see more interesting times towards the end of the year.
I think so too. But it only affects you if you're buying or selling.
Yeah. Again, I mean, one thing, one thing that I actually am quite at ease with my collection is again because I have chosen them so carefully and because I took so much time in acquiring each piece, unless there's a real emergency, God forbid, I'm not, I'm not gonna get rid of any of these watches in a hurry. So it's not none of this really affects me in any immediate way. Again, I started by saying, this is a channel where we aren't trying to sell you mugs or shirts. We're not trying to flip watches. We don't have corporate sponsors. We don't try to push you overpriced shitters, with quasi artistic documentaries and you know um, pseudo philosophical macro shots. Ultimately, this is just a place where we are a little too excited about talking watches.
Come on, guys, put some life into it.
Peeping
Let's get
Tom says that's a
excited.
great Seiko. Hey man, SKX. I think I shed a tear when they got discontinued. I love both of them. Don't take me wrong, but yeah, I guess if I had to get rid of one of my 9 or 10 now, since I remembered the System 51, uh, those are the two front runners. If we are truly talking about black sheep. And yes, Peeping Time explains System 51 very carefully and nicely. 51 parts held together by one screw. Almost perverse, but it is biodegradable.
Wow.
Well, it's almost midnight here, and I had a long day, so I will catch you guys in the next one.
Thank
Okay,
you,
Mitch,
Big Mac.
nice talking to you. Take care.
Thank
Oh,
you. The pleasure is ours, man. Take care.
my
Old
back.
man meat.
Oh,
Old man meat.
yeah.
Hey man,
I'm
get
definitely feeling it
yourself
today.
get yourself a proper chair at least. It doesn't have
No,
to be
I want
ergonomic.
value, Lord. I want value. I want value. See, I get like 100 more sits out of this thing. I want 100% value out of this chair.
Oh boy, you're gonna get hurt one day.
And then I wonder why my back hurts. Yeah, that's a good point, but that's beside the point.
Aussie expat says the discontinuation of the SKX marked when I no longer cared about Seiko. Wow. I mean, yeah. Yeah. It was a particular moment of transition for sure. And as much as I respect the accessibility of Seiko 5 as a series, there's nothing that speaks to me in the way that the older SKXs did. I did love the King Turtle. I didn't care about it at that price point, but the minute I found one at around 350 as a full set on eBay, I snapped it like that. Um, Again, because I just thought the waffle dial was pretty cool, and I didn't have anything in green. I like that particular shade of green as well. So I snapped it. I didn't care much about the ceramic bezel insert or a sapphire crystal. But hey, they have it, and it's fine. And I actually don't mind the Cyclops, their version of it, the candy bar Cyclops. America's Army 285 says so 9 hour backwards. By the way, here it's good morning to you, man. 6:40 a.m. Now I have a reason to use my watch. Hey, sometimes they come in handy, right? They can tell time. That happens. And Aussie Expat says about Seiko 5, crappier, trendy replacements, double the price. That's everything Seiko now. Nice watches, but overpriced.
Yeah, they have gone up for sure.
Oh, I wish Big Mitch was here to read this one. Lone Snake, the watch community Karen says, never feel sorry for someone who owns a Rolex, but Big Mitch's chair may cancel out that axiom. Oh.
Yeah, we should have an over and under bet here. Like 100 sits or 1 month. When's that back gonna give out? And he's just gonna go ass over tea kettle
No,
on
it's just,
on air.
yeah. I mean, look, the thing is, the reason I'm giving him a hard time about this is because Joe actually actively complains about his back like every other day.
Okay,
Like he says he has a lot of back pain and this and that, and I mean, you can see why. It's
that's not helping. I'll tell you that.
yeah,
Oh wait.
yeah.
So
Keeping time.
yeah,
Sorry, go ahead,
I was
Justin.
watching a movie last night. It was 3 hours long. It kept me up late, and I'm tired. It was
Okay, so
yeah. It was.
you're in
It
the
was.
process
The
of leaving as well.
No, no. Well, not right away. But
Okay.
yeah, it was about a big guy. He was the protagonist, and he had a smaller fella walking around beside him with bunny ears. You know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, I think I do. Tell me more.
Okay. Actually, there was a lot of work done to it. It was well done, but there are certain parts of it that should have been edited out because I think they revealed too much about what some people thought of other people.
Mm, yeah, yeah. Maybe that was intentional. Have you thought of that?
Yeah, I did actually, and I thought, bad choice, bad
Uh,
choice. But
no,
hey,
look. I'm looking forward. I have said this many times, even when that movie was not even shot yet. I was saying that there needs to be a director's cut narrated by Mike the Snake for at least 5 hours. It needs to because, because
oh,
people
you
are
have a
people
mean
are
streak.
apparently
Okay.
people are asking for brevity. I think that's the wrong way to go. You gotta go with the whole thing. It should be at least like a 5 hour cut. Um, and Mike the Snake narrates it. I think that would be my favorite edition, and I might even get it on DVD or something.
You remember Clockwork Orange?
Yeah, of
Just
course.
think of that scene, okay? That's what it's gonna take. It's a long 3 hours. Let's put it that way.
time is
But
time is indeed relative, without quasi philosophizing, I can tell you that.
oh, yeah, and it's 3 hours you can't buy back. Okay.
Aussie
But
Expat says
yeah.
AR-15s are held together with no screws. And Peeping Time says I have SBDC 055 as a unique dial. Yeah, that's a nice watch. That's the Patty, no?
I like my recent purchase was the Seiko. Oh, I think it was SBDY. Blah blah blah. It's the penguin one, the teal colored Save the Oceans latest iteration or
Hmm.
reiteration of it
I
with
think
the
I saw it on your
penguins.
Instagram.
Ah, correct. Yes, right.
Yeah. Do I have your permission to pull it up?
By all means.
Let's check.
Let's see. Yeah, I'm pleased with that one. I'm pleased with that one. I think that's my second or third monster that I've had there.
One thing that I adore about Seikos is not only that they have the day date function oftentimes, but it's also the bilingual one for the
Yeah,
day. I just love
yeah.
that. Like I don't know why, but
I made myself learn the kanji characters.
amazing.
Uh, yeah, but if you ask me right now, I think that's Thursday. But By the way, about 4 feet from where that shot was taken, I had my first coffee and cigar of the summer,
Mm,
and it was lovely. Hoyo de
oh,
Monterrey.
beautiful.
Epicure numero dos.
Love it.
Beautiful.
Love the
Beautiful.
watch. Love the cigar. My
Mm.
SKXs have Arabic and English, and my King Turtle has English and Spanish. So a lot of languages that I love there, and I
Yeah.
love this watch.
Yeah. If you
And
buy one in Canada, it's going to be French and English, of course.
mm, and of course our common friend Watch Nicholas loves it too.
Right. Right.
Beautiful. Wear it in good health.
Thank you. That's the plan.
Thomas says, "I bet they give to their charities. If that's about Seiko, yeah, I'm sure. Oh no, Tudor. Ah, yes, Thomas again is following a little from behind, I think. Maybe.
Oh,
I mean, look, maybe Tudor donates money to Beckham's favorite charity. I mean, that's a nice story. I might want to believe in that. Thomas Broadbent says the movie Bandit Like Beckham helped the popularity. He delivered too. Man, I mean, look, again, no offense. I like Beckham as a I liked Beckham as a player. I think again, he was underrated by his detractors and overrated by his own fans.
mm,
But overall, I think he was a great player, and I like the fact that he was a little bit of a journeyman, right? You know, after having played with United for quite some time, he ended up going playing with Real and actually won the La Liga with them. He ended up having shorter stints in AC Milan and PSG as well. Of course, he played in the US in LA Galaxy, which was an incredible business move for him, not only because of his image, but also it came with future stake at a new franchise. And that's
oh,
precisely what Inter Miami is. So, hey, and here he's wearing it. Um, he's wearing a root beer GMT on a bunt strap,
oh.
and it's quite cool. And this also speaks to what we were talking about earlier, right? He still wears his Rolexes in public, even if he is a Tudor ambassador. Um,
You know what? Your assessment was spot on. Um, over, overrated and underrated at the same time. I didn't watch a lot of like North American soccer and stuff, but I was aware of him, and that's exactly my impression too.
yeah, America's Army about his earlier message says, I meant to use my GMT function. Hey, that's one of my favorite uses. You know, use your use the GMT hand to indicate the time zone of your favorite live stream. Favorite watch YouTube live stream.
It's hard.
Uh,
It's hard to keep up with a lot of these. At least you are only 2 hours difference from Central here. But our brothers down in Oz, man,
mm,
when they light up, it's like wow, 5:30 in the morning, something like that. It's really
yeah,
hard to match up with them.
yeah. I think peeping time puts it beautifully. Who is Tom? Right. I think that's as much as I care about what that guy has to say about me. I don't rate him. I don't respect him. I don't care for him. I think he knows fuck all about watches. I think he knows very little about life in general. And he has certainly bitten more than he could chew at this point in time, just assuming that I'm the smaller fish because I have less subscribers than he does. But he's in for a tough ride for the next few years. Let's put it like that.
It's a tough
Thomas
gig.
Thomas Broadbent says New York Cosmos. Yeah, they were supposed to revive the New York Cosmos. Cantona was the football director and everything, but it wasn't meant to be. They did still bring out a New York team, NYFC, which I think is owned by the same company, same group that owns Manchester United. Sorry, Manchester City. What am I talking about? I think New York City FC is owned by Manchester City's owners, so the Emirates basically. Um, and of course, they have what was the other team called? They changed the name, I think. It became Red Bull, right? The New York, New Jersey Metro Stars. It became Red Bull FC as well, which is also owned by, of course, an international conglomerate. So, but yes,
You want to hear?
Cosmo had the legacy. I think they should have one of these teams should have used that franchise. But hey, sorry, Justin.
Sorry, no problem. You want to hear a crazy prediction that I've made like 10 years ago, and I still believe this will happen one day. Sorry to all my fellow NFL fans, but I think one day soccer will take over as the most
Mm.
popular field sport over American football. I don't know if I'd
Mm.
be like it, but I'll tell you why. Um, NFL is an expensive product to put on the field, and the liabilities are not going away. They're going up and up and up, and there's things like safety. Imagine, like,
Right.
except for player salaries in, say, the North American Soccer League, it's not super expensive to put a team on the field, and there's just way less injuries, and you don't have to charge $100 a ticket if you don't want to. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And you have world support for this. Like,
Well, I have one point to support your argument and one against it, basically. Um, of course, boxing at some point, for example, was America's number one sport, even more popular than baseball, if you can believe it. Um, and it was precisely the medical, quote unquote, scientific arguments against it, and I'm
mhm,
not denying the scientificity of it, the the brain damage over time that the support certainly causes, and the
mhm,
every year still to this day there are at least a handful deaths, and that are just um, as a result of injuries sustained in the ring, and that only refers to the professional level of the sport, and the stories that actually get publicized. God knows how many more people get injured, um, potentially crippled for life, or lose their
yeah,
life as
yeah.
a result of that. And yeah, it's a very brutal sport. um by the way, there are now scientific studies that have proven that head balls and heading balls in soccer also have detrimental effects over long term, to the point that there are movements to ban heading in the
Ah,
junior game.
okay.
Um, so and it makes sense, right? In the sense, like, you want to make sure that at least they reach a level of neurological development where
Mm,
hopefully the the injuries that they might sustain are less risky and not developmental. um all of that all of that being said, w- the NFL actually has very carefully and I think successfully started marketing its product at a global level. They have games on a yearly basis in different parts of the world. I know in Central Europe, at least, the sport started catching up, and in other parts of the world too. You know that it's obviously. I mean, I don't think there are any other sports that are as global in at this point in time as soccer, and I think it will continue to gain ground in the U.S. as well. Whether it can take over um, NFL soon, I am not sure, but it's possible.
Yeah.
It's
I
possible.
didn't say soon. I'm thinking very long term. This could take
Mhm.
another 20, 25 years. But because I know a lot of young people really love footy everywhere, right? I wasn't aware that this, I had heard of it, the head injuries in football. I, hard to get my, no pun intended, hard to get my head around somebody getting a concussion from hitting a football. But I definitely appreciate the concern for the younger players and development for sure, especially in like tackle football. But yeah, but like I say, that aside, over a long period of time, it may eclipse professional football. That would be a weird time, but yeah, will happen. We'll see.
Mm. Yeah, head injury in soccer is serious long term too. Thomas is reminding us. And Jake Brooks says the U.S. men's national team in soccer needs to be respectable for everyone to go crazy. They have started doing worse actually, which I'm really surprised. You know, the women's national team in US soccer has been so successful and so consistently successful. The men's team pales in comparison, but I remember at least in the few tournaments after 94, which was of course held in the US, they had a few good runs. They were about to eliminate Germany in one of those in round two and make it to the last eight, to the quarterfinals. I'm trying to remember which tournament that was. Was it '02 or '06? I'm trying to remember whether it was the one in Japan, Korea, or in Germany, where US got eliminated by Germany in the second round. So someone could look that up for me, perhaps. But they didn't play the last World Cup. I think they are going to Qatar at the end of the year, right?
Yeah,
Um,
con
and of course, they're hosting or co-hosting it in 2026 with Canada and Mexico.
right. Yeah, we're another team that needs to just step it up if we want to get recognized on the world stage. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, Thomas, it wasn't the 94 World Cup. And in 94, they got eliminated in the second round too, if I'm not mistaken, but not by Germany. They may not have made it out of the group actually in World
Mm.
94. I'm not sure. I'm blanking out. I used to be a bigger geek about soccer, but some of the older information has been cycled out from my brain. So I don't know. The USA women's national team for soccer, rock, I absolutely agree. I think they have, they have done it time and again and so consistently, in the Olympics, which is just as prestigious, if not more, than the World Cup when it comes to women's soccer. In the World Cups, of course. Um, Thomas says, we'll research. And JB says, Qatar hosting the World Cup coming up. Yes, and it's going to be held, guys, as you know, in the winter this time, because even with the air conditioning that they came up for the newly built stadia, of course, it was just it was just infeasible, or unfeasible, I guess is the word,
Yeah.
to hold it in the summer. So
Can
it's
you
gonna
imagine
be,
playing in the desert in summer?
yeah. I'm glad they didn't insist on that. You know, that I think as busy and as unwieldy as the competition schedule is in world soccer, I think they can they can work around it for one cycle. It's not too bad. um because look, I mean, again, with any kind of professional sport, especially if it's some kind of contact sport, not to mention combat sport, you're risking some sort of um, injury already for all the players involved, especially, again, with soccer. Some of the elite players play so many games in a single year, up to 72, 75 in certain instances, between the domestic league and the European competition, and
Right.
national team qualifications, and if there's a big tournament in the summer as well. Ridiculous. So you
Hmm.
don't want to add on top of that the risk of um, unreasonable dehydration, and everything else that comes with that in in a hot desert summer. So I'm glad they moved it to the winter. Guys, we
Yeah.
will go for another half hour here. Um, if you have been enjoying the show, please hit the like button, spread the word, share the link. And if you want to encourage me in the meanwhile, if you want to support the channel, you can always consider a PayPal contribution at lordhellespontv@gmail.com, lordhellespontv@gmail.com. I also have a Cash App at $LHVVV, $LHVVV.
So, are you making a slow transition from one name to the other, or
For the channel,
yeah, and your name?
no, I mean the whole God Emperor thing was a joke because people apparently don't understand that this name itself is a joke somewhere between Tristano's fake aristocratic origins and the pontiff's self-proclaimed rank of that level, and Archibald Chesterfield the third, and everything that goes with it. So
I don't
that
think
was
a
just
lot of
one.
people. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I don't. I think sometimes people's intellect outstrips a lot of uh, the possible reception of jokes.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I mean, you're right. I take full
yeah,
responsibility in if I'm misunderstood. I'm at least partially to blame. So it's no hard feelings about that. But the name for the channel, I just wanted to experiment. Basically, I'm not
mhm.
extremely wedded to it. Um,
Untimed.
let's see if you have any suggestions. I'm completely open to it. But I wanted to see if something that's slightly shorter, at least,
I don't
and
have a problem with that. No.
that's not just LHV watches or something like that, or watch LHV or something. I mean, it's just I didn't want to go as generic as that, or like LHV time or whatever.
Mm.
Yet I have to also say that I haven't yet found um, something that's completely satisfactory to me either. I take solace in the fact that when Nike was founded, it didn't have the swoosh, and it wasn't called Nike. It was called Blue Ribbon Sports. So hey,
Interesting.
at some point I will stumble into a name that makes a little more sense and maybe is a little catchier. But until then, untimely meditations, I thought could serve a
It can
purpose.
work. Sure. Just speaking of Nike and stuff, I used to be in the sporting goods business. And back in call it 77, I remember looking at the first Nike waffles that came in, the blue
Ah,
one with the yellow stripe. And I kind of went, "What the hell is this?" Right? Is this a joke? And then someone
mm,
told me I used to run track in high school, so I kind of
yeah,
get it. It was somewhat cleat-like, and yet it provided cushion. So at the time, I was still jogging, and so I got pretty good prices. So I grabbed a pair, and I said, "You know what? These are pretty good. These are pretty good." What kind of crazy company is this, right? In Beaverton, Oregon, I believe they started. But, well, here we are now.
yeah, yeah. I look. I mean, it's also with Jordan and in the transition they very successfully made, along with Puma and Adidas and some other brands, into now endorsing all sorts of celebrities and not just athletes. um I think Nike has done pretty good for itself.
Yeah, I just wish it wouldn't get so political, but that's another story for another time.
Oh, no worries. Peeping time is a great suggestion. Wasting time with LHV. It's very good. The one.
Mr. Boner, I'm sitting here in the dark. Otherwise, I would. I have no problem showing my face, but I'm in the dark here in my office, and I'm not about to set up any ring lights or stuff like that. So
Don't worry. Don't worry about
indulge,
it. Don't worry
indulge
about it.
my BMW. Yeah.
I don't take offense at that. Um,
No, me neither.
and of all people, Justin actually happens to be a published author. So I think if you do an Amazon search with that name, you'll actually find his books. Am I right, Justin?
You will. Yeah, or just go to justinforge.com if you don't mind me
Yeah.
spruiking that.
No,
Yeah,
not
you'll
at
see
all.
my bio, my pick. It's all about me. I have no secrets, so go nuts. And by the way, all proceeds of book sales go
Mm,
to the Winnipeg Humane Society or Slow Mission. If it isn't specified, I just switch it back and forth. And thank you in advance for people who have been buying and who people who have been buying them. So I appreciate that.
it's amazing. Yeah, thank you, Justin, for sharing that, and also thank you for the charity work you're doing too.
I can't not do it. I love animals and I care deeply for people who can't do it for themselves. The what little bit I do, you know.
Mm, yeah, that's thank you. Um, yeah, lawn snake. That's funny. Hey, I was making a joke out of it earlier when Lux Report was in the chat a few days ago saying, "How come you changed your name?" And I was joking around about how Lex reports came about, and how Lux is rightfully hurt by that, because initially it also had a logo similar to him.
Right.
Um, and I said I was thinking of changing mine to LHV reports, and he disappeared almost immediately. Unfortunately, I don't know if the
Oh.
joke was taken well or not, but hey,
Oh, I'm sure he can take a joke. He's good with it. And I mean, now I'm doing it. Yeah, Lex or Dexter. He did uh, change his logo. Now
yes,
it's not the gold on the white, which was kind of cheeky because it's so close. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But he did what I thought was the right thing.
Yeah, I
But
think, I mean, it was intentional, of course, but yeah, you know, um, again, I'm not in the business of criticizing or propping up any other channel unless they're openly attacking me. And hey, it's I have no problem with Lux Report, that's for sure.
he's a nice guy.
I think so. I've always thought so.
Mm-hmm.
So your for you a three watch collection would serve you quite well, right?
With the let's call it open spot on the bench. You always need to have that possibility just for one more. Always the hunt for one more. You know what I mean?
So it
Uh,
always has to be plus one, 3 plus 1.
of course. Let's face
Okay.
it. After collecting watches for 22 years, I'm not fooling myself. We love looking at getting the itch and then putting your sights on one and then pulling the trigger, right?
Mhm. Yeah, no, I think that's the sign of a real collector, right? And that's how I try to encourage a lot of people who are just joining the hobby too, because I have some friends who are interested in watches, and but they usually hold back because they think they don't have the right watch to be on a panel or to be part of the Archieverse watch community, whatever you want to call it, on YouTube. And that's what I tell them. Even the most um, seasoned watch collector is always after that next watch, always after the other watch that they really want to acquire and that they think is truly going to um, put together or hold
Right.
together that collection.
Or
They're
to
always
complete
missing
it.
a
Yeah.
piece.
Right.
Um,
Uh, that's the misnomer. We should never ever think that this last one will be the final piece in the puzzle. It's impossible. It's a puzzle without a frame. It's you keep adding, but make sure you keep taking away. If unless you don't have to sell them, that's in which case enjoy,
right.
enjoy. This is just a thought out of nowhere, but
Yeah.
I never get jealous of people and their collections. The more they have, the beautiful have. I am happy for them, and I live vicariously through them. I I think it's great. I think wow.
And that
I couldn't afford such a thing, but that's fine.
I think that's one of the pleasures actually of being part of the watch community, especially beyond YouTube, especially in real life, especially in face-to-face interactions, because I think this goes with a lot of diehard collecting hobbies as well. So I don't want to exceptionalize it and valorize it so much. But um, I have hardly seen a group of people who are so generous with their time and possessions, um, and who have in real life who have such little disregard for your ethnic background, your nationality, your race. It's really only in very toxic parts of this particular space in YouTube where people are so viciously racist,
Mm,
anti-Semitic, and everything else that comes with it. In real life, I've really never met someone who collects watches and who was a bigot inside. I mean, it's just that's why I'm always very puzzled and very um, disappointed whenever I see this. But it's always about what are you wearing and what else do you have in your
mm,
collection, and there's very little care about anything other than that. Sometimes
Right.
even the professions and other hobbies and family life falls out of the frame, right? At least in part, as part of that little conversation. Of course, then you end up forming friendships and more meaningful relationships, and then, then of course you can have other sorts of conversations. But
Right.
these sorts of, events, collectors gatherings, watch communities like the Red Bar, for example, they're spaces where everyone is welcome, and where everyone just shares their watches. I mean, how many, let's say, about cars, right? If you have a cool car and someone just pulled, right next to you and said, um, that's a cool car, and started reciting all sorts of facts about your car to you, would you step out of your car and give them the reins?
Uh, it definitely provides an for an instant connection.
Yeah.
That's
It,
the
I
best
mean,
part
it,
of it.
it does, but like, in the watch hobby, someone in the right environment, especially, someone compliments you on your watch, and it just comes off, and you hand it to that person,
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I see what you're saying. By the way, I
right?
just wanted to go back to a point. Uh, these people in general en masse are generous with their time and their possessions and their money as well. We've both seen astounding contributions, even in one night. And the thing that I think prevents a lot of racism and hatred and blah 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 is the fact that whoever's listening right now could be listening from all four corners of the earth.
Hmm.
So there's every known slice and cross section of humanity, and at that point, we all know we're here together, and we have at least two things that bond us together. A, we're human, and we love watches. So that's good. Now that said, sometimes I swear that if it's just a chosen few, this watch community embarrasses me a little, just because uh, a few people can really make things uncomfortable, embarrassing, toxic, and undignified. I'll leave it at that.
That's okay. I mean,
And
the
yeah.
world is big enough, really, just, and that's my consolation for the most part. We can create different kinds of spaces, and we can operate on different platforms.
Mhm.
Um, it's quite all right.
Mhm.
Peeping
I'm
time
not
was
going to be I'm not
sorry.
going to
Go
be
ahead.
so naive as to say um, that it's all kumbaya and we should all get together. No, we're human beings, so the more you get to know some people, the less you're gonna like them, and that's okay. That's understandable. Just love them as a human being, a fellow human being, and give people just the respect that they deserve. And everybody deserves some respect because everybody
Of
has a
course.
story. That
Hey,
period. That's all I got to say about that.
and before even that, before having a story, everyone has a dignity as a human being to begin with, and how it's, your Bible, so I don't need to recite chapter and verse necessarily, but there's something the Bible says about being created in that divine image.
Yes.
So that I think, in and of itself, gives every single human being an important dignity. And if you have a core as a believer of any sort, you will have that. And if you have a core as a secular humanist too, you will have that respect for each and every human being.
Correct. Yep. Everybody starts at 100% with me until you give me reason to think otherwise. It's not up to me. It's up to you. I respect you, and when I say you, it's everybody that's listening. By the way, I respect you as a human being because you were made in His image. Yes.
Peeping Time was asking if the World '94 World Cup was in Dallas. I think that was one of the stadiums was in Dallas. I think the final between Brazil and Italy was played in the
LA.
Rose Bowl, actually, yeah,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Los Angeles.
Right.
Peeping Time says, "Watch Love with your host LHV." Hey, man, I mean that's cool. A little um, too much of an innuendo there, even for my liking, I think. But that's cool. All suggestions welcome. I'm sure at some point we will hit the right one. We will stumble upon the right one, and of course, you would be given due credit. Um, what was I gonna say? Yes, and I mean, obviously, the jokes are welcome too. I'm not sure if I will address each and every one of them because, again, as a point of principle, as long as it's something very directly addressed to me, I try not to make an issue of whatever is going on elsewhere. Um, I do wanna figure out when um, USA was eliminated um, in the World Cup against Germany because all right, let's take a look at this. So in
Those are my
94,
guys. Yeah.
in the 94, they made it to round of 16 apparently. Um then all right, so it was all right. I think it was 2002. They made it to the quarterfinals. So who did they play in the second round? In the second round, United States eliminated Mexico in 2002. In the quarterfinals, okay, it was in the quarterfinals actually. They were beaten by Germany 1-0. And Germany actually made it all the way to the final, losing to Brazil 2-0 in that World Cup. So that was what I was remembering. That's as close as the United States men's team came to glory in the World Cup. Um, but after that, it was, I think, the highest placement they had was the round of 16, which is right after the group stage. But they got mostly eliminated, in fact, in the group stage as well. America's Army says Solus Tempus. Not bad, but it doesn't really. I think most of the. Let me put it this way, and maybe the audience will be a little more clear with what doesn't satisfy me about the name so far. I find it very suggestive and very interesting and actually appropriate to what I'm trying to do because we are talking about time. We're trying to be a little more thoughtful about it. We're trying to remain focused. So it does address the meditations aspect. But I also know that the kind of content I produce doesn't really mesh well with everything else that is going on in this little pocket of the YouTube space. So that's why I said untimely. On the other hand, I think it's a little too affected, quite honestly. And again, to some people that might be, that might be unexpected, but I guess they don't realize that some of what I do is actually completely in character, and I'm not actually this pretentious and affectatious in real life. So when it comes to Solus Tempus, that seems to be not different enough for me from untimely meditations in the sense that it's not as direct and punchy enough, even if it reflects some part of what I'm trying to do in this channel.
Time alone. Isn't that what that means? Something alone? Something like
Yeah.
that?
And that would be, I think America's Army has a good enough sense of humor. He refers to the fact that I'm mostly all by myself on the panel. So that would really
I
serve
know. It
driving
crossed
home
my mind.
that
It
point.
crossed my mind.
But
Hey,
hey,
I got a good one. I got a good one here. Sic semper tyrannis. Just let it all hang out. tell these, tell the whole world this is where it's at. Okay. Thus always the tyrants, or so, whatever that means.
guys, thank you so much, and thank you, Justin, and earlier Joe, for being on the panel with me. I genuinely appreciate it. We, among other things, we talked today about the philosophies, the emotions, the feelings that drive us as watch collectors, and whether we could be satisfied with a specific number of watches. I think ultimately most of us were saying absolutely not. There's always going to be that other watch out there that we will be pining for, that we will be seeking after. Um, so it's always that plus one, for better or worse, for us who have this collector's mentality, who have been bitten by that bug of watch collection. But ultimately, we have heard beautiful and very touching stories about some watches today. And I especially want to recognize Justin's story. Um, and
Uh,
hey, thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for your presence and support. And I would appreciate it if you could hit that like button, upvote this stream. I don't want to interrupt you, Justin. You were saying something.
yeah, I just want to say it was my pleasure being here, and thanks for having me. And it was really good talking to everybody in the chat. Thank you.
Likewise, Justin. Thanks for being with us today. And I'm very grateful that you jumped on the panel.
Great stuff. We'll
Um,
do it again.
I hope so, and sooner
Okay.
than later.
Okay. Good night.
And good night, Justin. And finally, yes, guys, if you haven't hit the like button yet, please do so. Spread the word, share the link on other platforms, help me get to 1,000 subscribers. It will help me a great deal as I try to get the channel monetized. Until then, if you want to encourage me, if you want to support the channel, if you want to help me get more equipment to produce new, original, and exclusive content, you can always consider a contribution on PayPal at lordhellespontv@gmail.com, lordhellespontv@gmail.com. And I also have a Cash App, $LHVVV, $LHVVV. Thank you, everyone. I will see you tomorrow. And until then, I bid you adieu.